Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Articles by Vaishnavacharyas. And today's article will be Initiation into Spiritual Life, authored by His Divine Grace Śrīla Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Goswami Prabhupada. And this was written in the December of 19, or published in the December of 1928 in the Harmonist magazine. So this is taken from the Harmonist As It Is series of books, volume number 2, page 149. We will quickly say our Mangalacharan prayers and we will continue. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, we'll be studying this very important article, Initiation into Spiritual Life by Śrīla Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura. And just, I think, yesterday, we had many devotees who got initiated in the ISKM Puducherry, our Indian headquarters. About 16 devotees were initiated at once. So, I think this is, so I thought it would be a good, you know, reason to discuss this. So that actually this article is important for every initiated devotee and also every aspiring devotee, aspiring what is that? Aspiring to become initiated. So all devotees who are serious should read this article. Okay, so let's quickly jump into the article. Initiation into spiritual life. So please share this live stream in the social media and the WhatsApp group so that more people can come and join. So, initiation into spiritual life. The ceremony of Diksha or initiation is that by which the spiritual preceptor admits one to the status of a neophyte on the path of spiritual endeavor. So, by initiation, one becomes a neophyte devotee. Until then, he is not even considered a devotee. There is this verse, right? What is that? If you don't take Adikshitasya Vamoro, Kritam Sarvam Nirarthakam Pashuyonim Avapnoti. Yeah. You see, Vishnu Yamala states Adikshitasya Vamoru Kritam Sarvam Nirarthakam Pashuyonim Avapnoti Diksha virahito janaha. Unless one is initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, all his devotional activities are useless. A person who is not properly initiated can descend again into the animal species. अतो गुरुं प्रणम्यैवं सर्वस्वं विनिवेद्य च गृह्णीयाद् वैष्णवं मन्त्रं दीक्षापूर्वं विधानतः. It is the duty of every human being to surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. Giving him everything, body, mind, and intelligence, one must take Vaishnava initiation from him. So, anyway, there are so many like this quotes on the initiation. But you see, those who do not take initiation properly, they can again descend into the animal species. In fact, all their devotional activities are useless. So, then how come they are useless? Because, of course, whatever we may do is a step forward, right? And it's never lost. Neha bhikramanashosti pratyavayo navidyate. We all know that. Second chapter, 40th verse. Then how is it that, activities before initiation are all useless? The reason is, you know, without surrender to the spiritual master, one actually does not even begin the process of surrender. It is just um, namesake. Because unless one submits to the will of the spiritual master and follow the rules therein, then yes, the actual surrender starts. That's why, what did Krishna say? Ye me bhakta jana partha name bhaktas te jana mad bhaktanam cha ye bhaktas te me bhakta tamamata. If one consider himself my devotee, I don't consider him my devotee, Krishna says. But if he considers himself a devotee or a servant of my devotee, then I begin to consider him my devotee. So we have to become servant of Krishna's devotee. Dāsa dāsa gopi bhartuh padakamalayur. So if I don't become a das or servant of a acharya, bona fide spiritual master, then Krishna, the beginning of our recognition by Krishna does not happen. Because we are thinking, I'm directly going to go to Krishna. Or, I can do directly all this without having to, confine or bind myself to the initiation process. No, that will not work. So, surrender starts with initiation. Karishye vachanam tava means to become servant. So, when Karishye vachanam tava, Arjuna said, Bhagavad Gita was finished. That was the end of Bhagavad Gita. So, one has to come to the point of Karishye vachanam tava, and that is the meaning of initiation. So, even when he says Karishye vachanam tava, until one actually does it, and the extent to which he does is the extent or the degree of his advancement. So in the beginning it will be neophyte. So that is why Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura said here, the ceremony of Diksha or initiation is that by which the spiritual preceptor admits one to the status of a neophyte on the path of spiritual endeavor. The ceremony tends to confer spiritual enlightenment by abrogating sinfulness. So, in other words, during the time of initiation, one's sinful reactions are completely driven away, destroyed by the power of the spiritual master. And therefore, there is another reason why the spiritual master has to be extremely powerful in order to abrogate one's sinful reactions. It's not a joke. The ceremony tends to confer spiritual enlightenment by abrogating sinfulness. Its actual effect depends on the degree of willing cooperation on the part of the disciple and is therefore not the same in all cases. This is very important now. Not all people who take initiation will have the same effect. And what determines this? The degree of willing cooperation on the part of the disciple. So its actual effect depends on the degree of willing cooperation of on the part of the disciple, and is therefore not the same in all cases. It does not preclude the possibility of reversion of the novice to the non-spiritual state if he slackens in his effort or misbehaves. What is the meaning of this? It does not preclude the possibility. That means it does not rule out the possibility of reversion of the novice to the non-spiritual state. Novice means again neophyte, a beginner. Initiation does not mean that he will never go back into materialistic life again. No, it does not make one immune to that. The initiation ceremony itself, no. Because if he slackens in his effort to keep up the vows of initiation, and in order to keep the vows, we have to take to the entire program, because we have promised the spiritual master that we will not, we will follow the four regulative principles and chant 16 rounds. But in order to do that, there has to be a support system in order for us to follow those vows and not break them. And that support system is the association of devotees. In the association of devotees, there is, you know, what is that? Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, Mathuravas, Srimurtir, Shraddhaya Sevan. So these five things are very important. What are they? Sadhu Sangha, um, Nam Kirtan, okay, association of devotees, chanting of the holy name, both as japa and kirtan, and especially in kirtan, which is congregational in nature. Bhagavat Shravan, the hearing of Bhagavatam. Bhagavat means topics related to Bhagavan, whether it is teachings of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, or narrations about Krishna, which is Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhagavat Shravan has to happen. And then Mathuravas, to stay in Mathura or the temple. At least if one is a grihastha, one should stay around nearby the temple, so that daily, at least twice, he is coming to the temple and associating with devotees. And Srimurtir Shraddhaya Sevan, to worship the deity with faith and veneration. Now, if you notice in these five, four are dependent on one. In the association of devotees, we will have every other facility. We will have a temple, because the devotees will establish the temple and maintain it and run it, manage the temple. So the deities will be there. So Srimurtir Shraddha Sevan can happen when there are dedicated devotees. Now, Sadhu Sangha, first item, right? Nam Kirtan, congregational chanting of holy names, can happen in the association of devotees again. Bhagavat Shravan, this hearing about Krishna's topics, can happen again in the association of devotees. Mathura Vas, the staying in the association of staying in the temple or Mathura. What makes these places holy places? Tirthi kurvanti tirthani. The devotee is the one who makes those places holy. And Srimurti Shraddha Sivan, deity worship. All this is possible in the association of devotees. So therefore it is said, Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Koy, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Madhya Lila 22.54. So that means every Shastra is proclaiming Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Koy. Every Shastra is proclaiming or advising the association of devotees. Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha means even 1/11th of a second. Very, very small amount of time. Sarva Siddhi Hoy. All perfection will be there. Like if you see how our life changed. We met with the devotees only for a very short while. I remember with my first meeting, how I came to Krishna consciousness. So a brahmachari came and he was selling books in our colleges. I mean, he was going door to door by every college. And I bought a book from him. I would have practically met him only for like 10 minutes maximum. That's it. And I bought a book from him. That's it. That 10 minutes of association with the devotee changed, changed the life. Of course, that was the beginning, and then it will lead to further things. So when we associate with devotees, take a book, and then we read the book, and then that will lead to association of devotees by Guru Krishna Prasadapaya Bhakti Lata Bij. Then we will be put in the association of devotees by Krishna's mercy, and then we will advance further and further. And now in this way we can understand how Krishna's mercy is working. So even a small amount of association, small period of association is very powerful, very powerful. So sadhu sangha is very important. So it is said here, its actual effect, the actual effect of initiation depends on the degree of willing cooperation on the part of the disciple and is therefore not the same in all cases. It does not preclude the possibility of reversion of the novice to the non-spiritual state if he slackens in his effort or misbehaves. So in other words, this can happen if we do not associate with devotees. Then easily we will slacken. And mind you, not that I'm in the proximity of devotees, I am safe. No. Physical proximity of devotees is not the thing. One has to follow, even, yes, physical proximity is necessary, but that's not the only thing. One has to be willingly wanting to surrender to the process, take to the process wholeheartedly. Otherwise, I can be around devotees all my life, but I will not make any inch of advancement. Because I'm not taking the process seriously. So, reading on. Initiation puts a person on the true track and also imparts an initial impulse to go ahead. It cannot, however, keep one going for good unless one chooses to put forth his own voluntary effort. So, it gives us a kickstart in spiritual life. It imparts an initial impulse to go ahead. It cannot, however, keep one going for good. Means we cannot keep on continuing just because I have taken initiation. I will automatically progress. No, cannot keep on going for good unless one chooses to put forth his own voluntary effort. The nature of the initial impulse also varies in accordance with the condition of the recipient. So, how much initial kickstart we will get, that also depends on the condition of the recipient. But although the mercy of the good preceptor, when we say good preceptor, please replace it with bona fide spiritual master in your mind. Now, Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura is using the phrase good preceptor. Good preceptor means, oh, a good person, something good. No, no, no. It is. So, Srila Prabhupada was very specific about what he meant. You replace in your mind with bona fide spiritual master. Whenever he says, he says many times this phrase, good preceptor. So, good preceptor means bona fide spiritual master, nothing else. Okay? But although the mercy of the good preceptor or bona fide spiritual master enables us to have a glimpse of the absolute and of the path of his attainment, so with the mercy of the bona fide spiritual master, one will have a glimpse of the absolute and of the path of his attainment. That means we will be shown the path, how to go to him. The seed that is thus sown requires very careful tending under the direction of the preceptor if it is to germinate and grow into the fruit and shade giving tree. Very important. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 19, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes the duty of the advancing devotee and he compares him with a gardener. We have to be an expert gardener. The seed of devotion is received from by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Now we have to water that seed, put it in a fertile ground first of all. Our heart should be fertile enough for the seed to start even fructifying. If you sow a seed in a barren land, it would be useless. So our heart must be fertile. That means there should be sincerity of purpose. That is a fertile heart. And once sown, it has to be watered and tended to carefully. Not only watered, There will be weeds. The weeds have to be uprooted. The plant has to be fenced. Yeah. So many things we have to take care if we have to take care of a plant. So, like that, we have to take care of our bhakti lata, the creeper of our devotional service. And if you see, we'll go to that part of where all this is mentioned. We'll just read the English because for the sake of time. Just I'll just read the English. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with the bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. When a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually by the process of Shravan and Kirtan, hearing and chanting, the seed will begin to sprout. As one waters the Bhaktilata beach, the seed sprouts and the creeper gradually grows to the point where it penetrates the walls of this universe and goes beyond the Viraja river lying between the spiritual world and the material world. It attains Brahmaloka, the Brahman effulgence, and penetrating through that stratum, it reaches the spiritual sky and the spiritual planet Goloka Vrindavan. Being situated in one's heart and being watered by Shravan and Kirtan, the Bhakti creeper grows more and more. In this way, it attains the shelter of the desire tree of the lotus feet of Krishna, who is eternally situated in the planet known as Goloka Vrindavan in the topmost region of the spiritual sky. The creeper greatly expands in the Golok Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. And you can actually go and read all this. This is very important purports as well. So please read it. For the sake of time, I'm just going to read the translations only. So this fencing means this is by the protection of devotees. Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotional service. See? The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited, so there will be weeds also. Some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection, diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. If one does not distinguish between the bhakti creeper and the other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the bhakti creeper is curtailed. See, this is how one will reverse to the non spiritual state after initiation if we don't take care of the weeds, if we don't uproot the weeds. As soon as an intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. Then the real creeper, the Bhaktilata, grows nicely, returns home back to Godhead, and seeks shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. So, you see, as soon as an intelligent devotee, foolish devotees, they cannot even notice that there is a weed growing. They think that is the actual creeper. They'll mistake the weed creeper for the actual creeper. But an intelligent devotee, he will be able to notice. So, how to be that intelligent devotee? How to notice? Well, we have to associate with senior devotees, those who are more advanced. And in this way, We have to be blessed by the mercy of the Guru in order to become sensitive enough to be able to see. Nowadays, the word sensitive is used for senseless people. Sensitive means, oh, he very easily gets offended. That's not sensitive, that's senseless. Sensitive means he's able to sense, he's able to catch, grasp, or notice, take note of. That is called sensitive. To be able to sense the difference between the bhakti lata and the weed lata. So, then the real creeper, the bhakti lata, grows nicely, returns home back to Godhead, and seeks shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. When the fruit of devotional service becomes ripe and falls down, the gardener tastes the fruit and thus takes advantage of the creeper and reaches the desired tree of the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. There, the devotee serves the lotus feet of the Lord, which are compared to a wish fulfilling tree. With great bliss, he tastes the juice of the fruit of love of Godhead and becomes eternally happy. To taste the fruit of devotional service in Golok Vrindavan is the highest perfection of life, and in the presence of such perfection, the four material perfections religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation are very insignificant achievements. As long as there is not even the slightest fragrance of pure love of Krishna, which is the perfect medicinal herb for controlling Lord Krishna within the heart, the opulences of material perfections known as the siddhis, the brahmanical perfections, satya, shama, titiksha, and so on, the trance of the yogis, and the monastic bliss of Brahman all seem wonderful for men. So, until one tastes Krishna Bhakti, everything else will be very important until then. After that, nothing is of importance. So, you please go and read the purports of these verses. They are long purports and very important purports as well. Yeah? In 19157, there is one change that the books made, very important change, where Prabhupada says in the original that even um, if you know one can keep association with the spiritual master directly, if you can't keep association, if there is no proper association of devotees, there the in the changed version they say you must stay in the association of the society and like that. Now that's a big difference, because if the society goes wayward, like what happened in ISKCON now, we can't stay in that society. And of course, although it is said, one can keep a direct association with the spiritual master. Now, practically, how much is that possible? Because it is not that it is impossible, but it depends on the willingness of the devotee again. Like Srila Prabhupada, he only met his spiritual master handful of times. But he took his instructions seriously. Alone, he could do everything. But if we do not have such determination, how can we directly keep in touch with our spiritual master? If we really want, we can. Free will is there. But the thing is, because I can't trust my mind that I will be always, unless one is a pure devotee like Prabhupada, alone he could do everything. That's why even when Prabhupada sent his men to open a center, he would always send at least 2 to 3 devotees, never one. Because one, he will get demoralized, his mind will go somewhere. So to protect the devotees, he always sends 2 or 3 devotees. So even if, so in the company it will be more encouraging. Because we are still neophytes. See, um, so in this way, one can understand how one should carefully, take care of this treasure of devotional service. So reading on, unless our soul of his own accord chooses to serve Krishna after obtaining a working idea of his real nature, he cannot long retain the spiritual vision. So this is important. So unless we voluntarily want to serve Krishna, our intention should not be anything else. We have to be voluntarily wanting to serve Krishna. That's it. Of course, in the beginning there is some force, but we cannot just depend on brute force like that. we have to take it up. And that initiative of taking up the service comes when we regularly read. If we don't read Prabhupada's books, we don't understand what we're doing. Our mind is preoccupied with all kind of materialistic thoughts. That will help no one. Unless our soul of his own accord chooses to serve Krishna after obtaining a working idea of his real nature. How to obtain this working idea? We get this by the spiritual master, from the spiritual master. Like Srila Prabhupada, he gave us a working idea of how to go back to Krishna. Now we can read the book and then we can, okay, we have to serve Krishna and go back to Godhead. Now, what exactly should I do on a day-to-day basis? What is the working idea? What is the plan? Okay, I have to go back to Krishna. I have to, become his devotee. Okay, what does that mean on a daily basis? That's the big picture. But what does that entail? So that working idea is given, chanting 16 rounds every day. Okay, everything is specified. Chanting 16 rounds. There is deity worship, Mangalarati, eating only Krishna prasadam, preaching Krishna consciousness, distributing books, um, variety of services, cooking for Krishna, conducting festivals for Krishna, constructing temples for Krishna, making more devotees. All these things um, are Krishnarthe akhila cheshta. Manye tadarpita mano vachana ihita. Ihita means endeavor. Artha. So, all endeavor should be for Krishna. Krishnarthe akhila cheshta. Every kind of activity for Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada has filled our days with full of service every single day. So that is the working idea. Because if you want to go back to Krishna, if you want to become a devotee of Krishna, devotee means one who is devoted. That is, employee is one who is employed. So devotee means one who is devoted. So how to devote ourselves, every breath of our life, every moment of our time, how to devote ourselves, that is given by the working idea by the spiritual master. So that's why it is said here, unless our soul is of his own accord chooses to serve Krishna after obtaining a working idea of his real nature, he cannot long retain the spiritual vision. Ayatayamani, chandam sayatayamani. So 108042, if you see, we have shown this many times. Tushtoham 1080. It's a very important verse. The satisfaction of the spiritual master is the key. Tushtoham bho dvijashreshthah satyaha santu manorathah chandam syayatayamani bhavantviha paratracha. You boys, Sandipani Muni is saying to Krishna and Balaram, you boys are first class Brahmanas and I am satisfied with you. May all your desires be fulfilled and may the Vedic mantras you have learned never lose their meaning for you in this world or the next. So how is it not becoming stale? Because they are firmly fixed in the service of the spiritual master. Here you see. Unless our soul of his own accord chooses to serve Krishna after obtaining a working idea of his real nature, he cannot long retain the spiritual. He will fall back to the non-spiritual or material state. That is called yatayamani. Yataya means it becomes stale. Krishna consciousness becomes stale and not fresh and ever fresh. Nitya nutanaha. It will not be like that anymore. It will become stale and old and dry. No more juice. Rasa. Bhakti rasamrita sindhu. Rasa means nectar. The juice, the ocean of the nectar of devotional service. Bhakti rasamrita sindhu. Now that rasa will go away. It will become dry. The soul is never compelled by Krishna to serve him. So, there is no force from Krishna's side for us to serve him. So, if we choose to slip away and slacken, then we can go back. Krishna will not compel us to serve him. So that's why we will go back and fall away, downfall. So the soul is never compelled by Krishna to serve him. So he may go back to materialistic life. But initiation is never altogether futile. It changes the outlook of the disciple on life. If he sins after initiation, he may fall into greater depths of degradation than the uninitiated. So those who are initiated, we have to be very careful that, you know, if we fall, we will fall to greater depths of degradation than the uninitiated. Prabhupada said before coming to Krishna consciousness, one is a third class person. When one comes to Krishna consciousness, he is first class. But after coming to Krishna consciousness, he falls away, he is fifth class. So, reading on, but even though after initiation temporary setbacks may occur, they do not ordinarily prevent the final deliverance. The faintest glimmering of the real knowledge of the Absolute has sufficient power to change radically and for good the whole of our mental and physical constitution, and this glimmering is incapable of being totally extinguished except in extraordinarily unfortunate cases. So, the faintest glimmering of the real knowledge of the Absolute. Yeah, Krishna Surya Sama. So, first of all, it does not ordinarily, even though one may have fallen away, it will not ordinarily prevent the final deliverance. That means either in this life, next life, or after some time, he will again be admitted back into devotional service. See, the faintest glimmering of the real knowledge of the Absolute has sufficient power to change radically and for good. That means for once and for all the whole of our mental and physical constitution, and this glimmering is incapable of being totally extinguished except in extraordinarily unfortunate cases. So that's why it is said, Neha Vikramanashoste Pratyavayo Navidyate Swalpamapyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. Even a little bit endeavor in this part will save one from the greatest danger. It will not be destroyed, it will not be reduced under any circumstance. One may fall away from that, but again, after some time, he will come back to that and continue from there. And of course, the Bhagavatam also says the same thing. 1.5.17. त्यक्त्वा स्वधर्मं चरणाम्बुजं हरेर्भजन्न पक्वोऽथ पतेत् ततो यदि यत्र क्वमाभद्रमभूदमुष्य किं को वार्थ आप्तो भजतां स्वधर्मतः. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. See? So, even if one has given up everything and to serve Krishna, if he falls down somehow or other, there's no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Another verse it is said here, Bhagavad Gita. What is that? 9:30 and 31. Api chesu duracharo bhajate mamananyabhat sadhureva samantavyah samyak vyavasito hisaha. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति. He quickly becomes righteous. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So this is the effect of devotional service. Even though he may fall, but he will quickly become righteous. We're not here saying that one will never fall because we are not pure devotees, we may fall. But Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma. Soon he will become again Dharmatma, righteous. There's another verse, 11:5, 42, I think. स्वपादमूलं भजतः प्रियस्य त्यक्तान्यभावस्य हरिः परेशः विकर्म यच्चोत्पतितं कथञ्चित् धुनोति सर्वं हृदि सन्निविष्टः. One who has thus given up all other engagements and has taken full shelter at the lotus feet of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very dear to the Lord. Indeed, if such a surrendered soul accidentally commits some sinful activity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated within everyone's heart, immediately takes away the reaction to such sin. This is what happens. So Krishna actually purifies that person, even if he commits some sinful activities. That does not mean again, oh, that's nice, no? Krishna is so kind. I can do any damn thing I like and Krishna will save me. So that is the seventh offense. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. See, accidental is different from accidental fall down is different from intentional, deliberate fall down. That is not, of course, there is no such thing as a completely accidental fall down. Of course, one's free will is acting, only then he will actually fall down. But, you know, by the force of the senses, one may do something stupid. But when there is sufficient counsel from the Paramatma in the heart, because you see, every time we try to do something wrong, there is a voice inside us which tells us, don't do this, this is wrong. What is that? That is Paramatma. That conscience is coming from Paramatma. So there is sufficient counsel from the Paramatma, and many indications that come and show that should not be doing it. Devotees tell, or sometimes we just hear in the class or so read Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada will say something that actually will affect our or speak to our condition, mental condition. Actually, this is quite often noticed among devotees. When we are having a certain mental battle in our heads, whether that be a doubt about something or some struggle in our mind to understand something, or how to get over and get through this particular situation, whenever we are in some kind of a dilemma, confusion, um, indecisiveness, if we keep to the reading of Srila Prabhupada's books on a daily basis, any devotee who has done that can testify for this, that he will get the answer while he is reading Prabhupada's books. Either that very day or the next day, very soon he will get it. Mostly on the same day. So that's how Krishna, Prabhupada, he speaks to us. So the guidance is always there. And despite all that, if we choose to ignore all those things and go, then that is much greater. Thinking that, oh, I'm very powerful, I can do this. Then that is a problem. See? So, reading on, it is undoubtedly practicable for the initiated, if only he is willing, to follow the directions of the preceptor that lead by slow degrees to the absolute. So, one should follow the rules and regulations by which he makes gradual advancement. That is most practical. The good preceptor, in other words, bona fide spiritual master. Whenever he says good preceptor, it's bona fide spiritual master. So, the good preceptor or bona fide spiritual master is verily the savior of fallen souls. It is, however, very rarely that a person with modern culture feels inclined to submit to the guidance of another, especially in spiritual matters. This is something which is very important to note. It is, however, very rarely that a person with modern culture feels inclined to submit to the guidance of another, especially in spiritual matters. But the very person submits readily enough to the direction of a physician for being cured of his bodily ailments. So, modern culture is this Western way of education in which submission, humility, um, becoming a slave of the guru, these are all despised. They say this is abuse of the children to make him a slave. Now the spiritual master does not exactly make the disciple a slave, but he actually has a lot of love for the disciple. But the disciple should consider himself a slave of the spiritual master. It's not that the spiritual master actually treats him like a slave. No, he treats him maybe some tough love, disciplining and all of that. But there is absolutely only love. And love, not just even like a father and son. No, that is even material. He is compassionate to the soul. So sometimes that compassion may manifest as anger. For example, if somebody is doing something really wrong, then the spiritual master will be angry. And that is because he has compassion for the soul, because if the soul continues to do that, he will, slip away. So to arrest his attention and, you know, point out the flaw and the corrective action, so sometimes he may, use the principle of anger. But it's not out of hatred, it's out of love. So, but you see, the modern educated person, he does not submit to another guru, but he very readily submits to the direction of a physician for being cured of his bodily ailments. Because these latter cannot be ignored without consequences that are patent to everybody. That is the thing. Okay, let's read this a little more sentence, I think a couple of sentences here. The evil that results from our neglect of the ailments of the soul. Okay, let's read that again. It is very rarely that a person with modern culture feels inclined to submit to the guidance of another, especially in spiritual matters. But the very person submits readily enough to the direction of a physician for being cured of his bodily ailments, because these latter cannot be ignored without consequences that are patent to everybody. The evil that results from our neglect of the ailments of the soul is of a nature that paralyzes and deludes our understanding and prevents the recognitions of itself. Its gravity is not recognized as it does not apparently stand in the way of our worldly activities with the same with the same directness as the other. The average cultured man is therefore at liberty to ask questions without realizing any pressing necessity of submitting to the treatment of spiritual maladies at the hands of a really competent physician. What is the meaning of all of this? I hope you understood though. So let me just briefly explain. So our soul, we the soul, have a disease. Kamam hridrogam. Lust is our disease, to enjoy this material world. That desire is our disease. So, Guru, bona fide spiritual master, he is the perfect doctor or physician who can cure our disease. Now, we may not choose to want to follow such Guru, but the bodily physician we immediately follow, because the latter or the bodily ailments cannot be ignored without consequences that are patent to everybody. So, if I have some sickness, I immediately know that I cannot function, and so it's very immediate and it's seen, it's observable. Okay, if I don't follow the rules of this doctor, I'll get more and more sick, or I will die. So that drives us, that visible feedback of me not following the recommended diet of the physician and then I getting sick the next day. So that's a very short gap of time between the cause and the effect. So that effect will give us the feedback saying that my action has caused this, so I have to correct it. So, and even if I did not do it, if the physician tells me to do it, I can understand why he is telling that. Because if I don't do it, if I played in my mind the chess game of what the next 5 steps, what is going to happen. Okay, he told me this, But if I don't follow, I'll just eat whatever I want and do whatever I want. Okay, 2 days later, I'll get again sick. Okay, I should stop. Or sometimes it's not as near. That's why you see diabetes. Diabetes, you will observe something interesting. Diabetes is a slow killer. It will not kill you immediately. Like cancer, if you get, okay, especially with stage 4, okay, just a few months left. So, diabetes is not like that. It is a slow killer. It slowly dysfunctions renders the other organs out of function slowly. So, because there is a much more lengthier gap between the cause and the effect, because diabetes leads to other diseases over time. Hmm. Now, because we don't see this, we don't take it seriously. For example, if somebody takes away from us $10,000, we will immediately feel the pain. But if somebody takes from us $10 every day, $10, but 3 months later it is, 3 months, sorry, 3 years. In 3 years' time, I will lose the same $10,000. So, because it is a length of time, and it is a little by little every time, so we don't take it very seriously. Uh, and now, if we so already when there is an increased length between cause and effect, our seriousness reduces. So now imagine about spiritual life. Now we are chanting every day Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we are chanting every day, and you know, of course, there is a bliss that can be experienced when we are chanting. But how close am I to Vaikuntha? Or how close am I to going back to Godhead? I'm not yet able to have any even feeling bhava. Where? So still far away, right? So if it is that length of a time, sometimes even over many lifetimes, this perfection can happen, depending on the seriousness. Prabhupada said one minute is enough for one to surrender. 1 minute. That famous clip is there, video clip. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishyami master. So he says that. So he is guaranteeing. So in 1 second, if I accept the proposal to surrender to Krishna, immediately my problems are finished and I will get moksha. But how eagerly are we taking to that surrender process? That is the thing that will determine our how far, how slow, or how fast we will advance. See, so that's why it is said here, because these latter cannot be ignored without consequences that are patent to everybody. Patent means visible to everybody. The evil that results from our neglect of the ailments of the soul is of a nature that paralyzes and deludes our understanding and prevents the recognitions of itself. This is how Maya is so subtle. Actually, it is very, very dangerous. We are in a very precarious condition every single moment of our lives, but we don't feel the urgency of it. That is Maya. That's why it is said. You see, it paralyzes and deludes our understanding and prevents the recognitions of itself. We can't even recognize we are in danger. We can't recognize that the danger is present right before us. And this verse is, there is a nice verse which explains this. I showed this before. क्षुद्रं शरं सुमनसां शरणे मिथित्वा रक्तं षडङ्घ्रिगणसामसुलुब्धकर्णम् अग्रे वृकानसुतृपो विगणय्य यान्तं पृष्ठे मृगं मृगयलुब्धकबाणभिन्नम्. My dear king, please search out that deer who is engaged in eating grass in a very nice flower garden along with his wife. That deer is very much attached to his business and is enjoying the sweet singing of the bumblebees in his garden. Now, just try to understand his position. He is unaware that before him is a tiger. which is accustomed to living at the cost of another's flesh. Behind the deer is a hunter who is threatening to pierce him with sharp arrows. Thus, the deer's death is imminent. Now, the deer, although his death is imminent, he does not see the danger. He can't see the hunter behind him, aiming the arrow, taking aim at him, and he cannot see the tiger in front of him. And I have mentioned this before. The deer's eyesight is a little different from ours. We see three colors: RGB, red, green, blue, and then the combinations of them. Deer sees only two colors, apparently. So there was this National Geographic video. I was startled. I remember this verse then when I saw that. So this deer was standing right in front of him in the shade of the trees was the tiger. And he was not even trying to hide. He was not even trying. He was just standing in plain sight. And the deer was happily eating grass and looking here, looking there, and eating grass, and looking here, looking there, eating grass. Happy. He could not see the tiger there, right in front of him. I was thinking, what is happening? Because the camera is showing like that. Right in front of him is the tiger. Like, what is happening? Why is he not seeing him? Then they change the the cameraman. The video editing. They change to the mode how the deer sees it. Deer sees the surroundings. So they change. It is like not like black and white, but it's like a little bit one color off. One color is out. Only two colors. With two colors, it's recreated the whole scene. So it was like how a human sees it, and then they changed to how the deer sees it. And my hair stood on end when I saw that. Wow, the tiger disappeared. The tiger was not even visible. So, especially the orange color of the tiger becomes invisible to the deer. Unless, and if of course, if the tiger moves, then he will detect movement. That much he can see. And trees don't move, so that will be, But as long as he stays still, this deer cannot do anything. He cannot even see the tiger. So I was like, wow. Then I remember this verse. Wow, this verse already knows. Like here it is said, he's unaware that before him is a tiger. So that means in front of the deer is a tiger, and he cannot see. So I was like, wow, this verse already says this. That means this is already known. Of course it is known, because our science is very perfect. Whereas it only took the camera, manipulation, and to understand the science of how the deer sees it. After all that experimental knowledge, one comes to know how the deer cannot see the tiger. Whereas if we just believe the words of the Shastra, we can immediately understand that the deer cannot see the tiger. And that's why we should believe the words of Shastra. So how the deer cannot see, we may not understand. But now with this experimental knowledge, we can see, okay, this is what happens. So either way, we'll come to the same conclusion. Anyway, so this is our position. We think there is no urgency. Like this deer, there is no urgency. Happily enjoying with his wife in a garden, in the beautiful forest, and birds are chirping, butterflies, and cool breeze, and everything is so romantic. But actually, he was going to die at any moment. So, our position is like that. We do not know when we're going to die. That's why next verse it is said, my dear king, woman who is very attractive in the beginning but in the end very disturbing is exactly like the flower which is attractive in the beginning and detestable at the end. With woman, the living entity is entangled with lusty desires and he enjoys sex just as one enjoys the aroma of a flower. He thus enjoys a life of sense gratification from his tongue to his genitals. And in this way, the living entity considers himself very happy in family life. You know what family life? There is enjoyment from the tongue to the genitals. If you see, the tongue, stomach, and the genitals are in a straight line. So these three are the enjoying centers in the family life. So the wife cooks nice food stuff and he will eat nicely. And that eating more will create pressure in the belly. So it will go to the belly. And when there is pressure in the belly, then, it pushes to the genitals and becomes sexually agitated. And then he has sex with his wife. And in this way, it is going on. So this cycle is going on. From the mouth, from the tongue to the genitals. Straight line. That whole sense gratificatory. Jihva upasthya, it is said. Jihva means tongue, and upastha means genitals. He thus enjoys a life of sense gratification from his tongue to his genitals, and in this way the living entity considers himself very happy in family life. United with his wife, he always remains absorbed in such thoughts. He feels great pleasure in hearing the talks of his wife and children, which are like the sweet humming of bumblebees that collect honey from flower to flower. He forgets that before him is time, which is taking away his lifespan with the passing of day and night. He does not see the gradual diminishing of his life, nor does he care about the superintendent of death who is trying to kill him from behind. Just try to understand this. You are in a precarious position and are threatened from all sides. This is our position. Extremely dangerous. We are taking it's all nice. We do not know. Kshanabhangura. This material world, our life is here, Kshanabhangura. In a moment it can be lost. One moment. Recently, one of family members of one of our devotees died in a motorcycle accident. I mean, he was just like 22 years old. 22 years old, boy, man, young man. And he was all well. He went out of the house on a bike and just, I think, some inattention. The police suspect that he was looking at his phone and then he hit something. So, just a moment, one moment, entirely gone life. So, Kshanabhangura. And of course, he may say, oh, that is because of his inattention. Okay. Sometimes it can happen with our full attention, it can still happen. Sometimes, I'm riding okay, but, somebody else makes a mistake, and then, especially if I'm on a motorbike, even more so, the chance of being killed. And especially in countries like this, the speed is a little bit fast. You see? So it's even more worse. So, the evil that results from our neglect of the ailments of the soul is of a nature that paralyzes and deludes our understanding and prevents the recognition of itself. Its gravity is not recognized, as it does not apparently stand in the way of our worldly activities with the same directness as the other. Now, if I get physically sick, I cannot work. I cannot go to work. I cannot do anything. I cannot even eat. I can immediately feel the blockage it will cause in my daily life. Now, if I don't chant for a day, I may still be able to work. I may still be able to do everything in the material world. So it doesn't look like it's having any effect. It is, but we do not see. This is the thing that keeps us deluded. We can't even recognize. Therefore, we don't take it as very seriously. The gravity is not recognized as it does not apparently stand in the way of our worldly activities with the same directness as the other, the material activities. The word here for this is pernicious. त एते साधवः साध्वी सर्वसङ्गविवर्जिताः सङ्गस्तेष्वथ ते प्रार्थ्यः सङ्गदोषहराहिते. Sangadosha, the pernicious effects of material attachment. What is this pernicious effects? O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment. What is this pernicious effects of material attachment? Pernicious means, sorry, okay, can you see that? Pernicious, having a harmful effect, especially in a gradual or subtle way. So we don't notice it. Or material, if we are materially attached, it actually feels good in the beginning, but we do not know how it is actually dangerous. We do not know. We don't see it. So this is more dangerous than a visible danger where we become alerted. So the Maya does not want us to be alerted. You will be alerted if the change is very drastic. But if it's not so drastic, then you will not be alerted. And that is the real danger, when there is no alertness. Utsahan nischayat dhairyat tattat karma pravartanat. That enthusiasm and that vigilante mode is not there. And when our guard is down, Maya can do her work perfectly well. So that's how these pernicious effects are. So its gravity is not recognized, as it does not apparently stand in the way of our worldly activities with the same directness as the other. The average cultured man is therefore at liberty to ask questions without realizing any pressing necessity of submitting to the treatment of the spiritual maladies at the hands of a really competent physician. So he may ask questions without realizing any pressing necessity of submitting to the treatment of spiritual maladies. So he may, armchair speculation, or, just like taking it easy and, asking questions and this and that with no sense of urgency, and no sense of urgency means no enthusiasm to take it up earnestly, immediately. That is a lack of a sense of urgency and a sense of enthusiasm. The questions that are frequently asked are these. Now, these are very valid questions which everybody may have. Why should it be at all necessary to submit to any particular person or to subscribe to any particular ceremony for the purpose of realizing the Absolute, who by his nature is unconditioned? If the Absolute Truth is, or the Bhagavan is unconditioned, why should we submit to any particular person or subscribe to any particular ceremony for the purpose of realizing the Absolute Truth? Why should Krishna require our formal declaration of submission to himself? Many devotees have this doubt nowadays. It's after all, once we read Prabhupada books, we're already initiated. Prabhupada said, you read my books, you are initiated. Question here, why should Krishna require our formal declaration of submission to himself? Next question, would it not be more generous and logical to permit us to live a life of freedom and in accordance with the principles of our perverted nature, which is also his creation? If you say I am perverted, that perverted nature is created by him only. So is it not more generous and logical that he permit us to live a life of freedom in accordance with the principles of our perverted nature, which is also his creation? Admitting that it is our duty to serve Krishna, why should we have to be introduced to him by a third party? Krishna, if I am an eternal servant of Krishna, let me serve Krishna. No, why this agent in the between? Middleman. Who is this? There is another question. Why is it impossible for one to serve Sri Krishna directly? It would no doubt be highly convenient and helpful to be instructed by a good preceptor, again, bona fide spiritual master. It would no doubt be highly convenient and helpful to be instructed by a good preceptor who is well versed in the scriptures in understanding the same. But one should never submit to another to an extent that may furnish a rascal with an opportunity of really doing harm. This is another important point here. We should not surrender simply blindly to anybody and everybody. Oh, I have to take guru, so okay, well, I'll quickly find some guru. That should not be the case. That's why um, Guru Shishya Lakshana Dohar Parikshan. You know that verse? CC Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 24th chapter 330th verse. Guru Lakshan Shishya Lakshan Dohar Parikshan. Your book should describe, this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing Sanatana Goswami to write a book about devotional service and every aspect of it. So one of the many instructions of what should go into the book is this. Your book should describe the characteristics of the bona fide guru and the bona fide disciple. Then before accepting a spiritual master, one can be assured of the spiritual master's position. Similarly, the spiritual master can be also assured of the disciple's position. Of course, after that is next item, next whatever should be mentioned in the book is mentioned. So the first line of this, Guru Lakshana, Shishya Lakshana, Dohar Parikshan. So Lakshana means quality, Parikshan means examination. So both should examine each other. Guru should examine the disciple whether he is serious or not. That's why there is 6 months stipulation. Okay, one should chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles for at least 6 months and attend, temple programs and everything. Then yes, first initiation. Then he continues to do that, the same thing. Then second initiation for another 6 months. So there is Purascharya Vidhi. Now you may say, why there is 6 months of following and then given initiation? If you say in the beginning that, before initiation everything you did is useless. Well, it is not exactly useless, but it is a preparation for the initiation. This is called, technically in Sanskrit, Purascharya. Purascharya means activities to be done before the actual beginning of spiritual life. The preparatory stage for the, spiritual life. So once one is seen to be, fixed and stable, then yes, there is Diksha. So, but one should never submit to another to an extent that may furnish a rascal with an opportunity of really doing harm. Because this gurus can do harm. If you submit to someone unconditionally and the person is not perfect, he can do you harm. Therefore, we have to check where we are surrendering. And then he tells something even, further. Let's read on. The bad preceptor, that means guru who is not bona fide. This is bad preceptor. The bad preceptor is a familiar character. Everywhere we can find these people. It is inexplicable how those gurus who live in open sin contrive nevertheless to retain the unquestioning allegiance of the cultured portion of their disciples. What is the meaning? It is beyond explanation how the shameless gurus live in open sin, who live in open sin. They don't even hide. And they sin like anything. And they contrive. That means they make plans and make schemes to retain the unquestioning allegiance. They demand the disciples should have an unquestioning allegiance towards them. From who? From the cultured portion of the disciples. That means those who are the cultured disciples, who are, they try to get them, their allegiance, unquestioning allegiance. Even though they don't follow anything and they sin like anything. Engage in sinful life. Breaking all principles and everything. माथा नेड़ा कपनी पड़ा तिलक नाके गालाय माला. माथा नेड़ा कपनी पड़ा तिलक नाके गालाय माला. देखते वैष्णवेर मता asala shakta kajar bela. He looks like a Vaishnava from external appearance, but he's actually a Shakta. Shakta means one who worships Durga. But also it also means Shakta means one who is Durga is what? Maya. So one who is serving Maya. That means he is totally sense gratifier. Shakta. देखते वैष्णवेर मत आसल शाक्त काजर बेला सहज भजन করছে না মামু সঙ্গে লয়ে পরের বালা. He makes a show of devotional service, but he dances with the neighbor's daughter, saying this is Rasalila and everything, all this nonsense. So these kind of, shameless fellows. And unfortunately, in ISKCON, these kind of gurus have, you know, is everywhere they are. So many have fallen down. Still, they are going on with their system. Brainless. Brainless. There are two ways you can fall down. One by sexual activity. And of course, money and all these things come with the same sense and joy. Another thing is by Jnana Marga. One may go into Mayavad philosophy. Ramachandra Puri, that's what happened to him. He offended Ishwar Puri, his guru, and he became Mayavadi. So, and he keeps on offending Vaishnavas wherever he goes. That is his reputation. So, we may also fall to that. And nowadays, some of the gurus are speaking Mayavad in public. And they are not considered as fall down gurus. So, this is all some utter trash that is happening. And it happens because no shame at all, no remorse, nothing. So it is inexplicable how those gurus who live in open sin contrive nevertheless to retain the unquestioning allegiance of the cultured portion of the disciples. Such being the case, can we blame any person who hesitates to submit unconditionally to a preceptor, whether he is good or bad? So, asking a valid question, can we blame any person who hesitates to submit unconditionally to a preceptor, whether he is good or bad? So, in other words, the the doubt on the part of the disciple whether I should submit or not, can we blame the disciple? Because there are so many examples of bad gurus. It is, of course, necessary to be quite sure of the bona fide of a person before we accept him even tentatively as our spiritual guide. So, this is the thing. Now, it is not said that, because it is very difficult to know whether he is proper or not, so we should always be skeptical. Yes, so this is how it is answered. We should be skeptical, yes. But if we see the qualities of a guru in someone, and how do we know what are the qualities of a guru? That's why nectar of instruction it is said. Vacho vegam manasah krodha vegam jihva vegam udaropastha vegam etan veganyo vishaheta dhira sarvamapi mam prithivim sasishyat. So he should be able to control all his senses, and he should know the shastras in and out, and he should be able to answer any question. So these are preliminary things that we should look for in a guru. If he can't even do this, what is the use of taking this guru? So it is of course necessary to be quite sure of the bona fide of a person before we accept him even tentatively as our spiritual guide. That's a dohar parikshana. But honestly, to be very honest, we did not have the luxury of being able to evaluate Srila Prabhupada, whether he was bona fide or not. In fact, what are the qualities of a bona fide guru, a bona fide spiritual master? We learn from Prabhupada. So then how does this work then? If I have to check against Shastric principles whether this is a bona fide guru or not, like I don't even know Shastra. Like what is a guru what a guru is supposed to do? Should he take me to Krishna, or should he take me to Shiva or Ganesh, or should he just give me some philosophy, something, like some mental speculation? What is actually the duty of a guru? I don't even know until I come to the proper guru. At least in previous yugas, there is a known set of standards of what a guru should do. In Kali Yuga, everybody is just so blind. They don't even know what a guru should do. So, how did we come to Srila Prabhupada then? That is by his mercy. Guru Krishna Prasad Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. So, by the mercy of the spiritual master only can our eyes be opened. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. He has opened our eyes. Until then, we don't even know how to see. We are blind. How can we know what is Guru and what is not? What is the symptoms? What are not the symptoms? How do we know? We're blind. So, reading on. A preceptor should be a person who appears likely to possess those qualities that will enable him to improve our spiritual condition. He should be able to elevate me in my spiritual life. These and similar thoughts are likely to occur to most persons who have received an English education when they are asked to accept the help of any particular person as a spiritual preceptor. You see, that is this very important point. And mind you, we are still under English education. Nothing has changed 100 years later, almost 100 years later, 95 years later, to be honest. But this was going on even before that, right? In 1928, this was written. So we are still under the English education. So here it is said, these and similar thoughts are likely to occur to most persons who have received an English education. In other words, once we have a conditioning of Western education, we don't, the relationship between a disciple and a spiritual master in our Vedic culture compared to the disciple between a professor and a student in the Western culture is very different. The level of submission on the part of the disciple in our Vedic culture is unmatched. And even in Chinese culture, which is closer to Indian culture, there also is this, absolute submission to the master. So, in their own Buddhism and all that, which is coming from where? From India only, from Bharat. So now, this relationship between, Guru and Shishya is very, very deep. Gurau Sudrudha Sauhridaha Acharan Dasavan Nicha. But today, if the teacher asks the student to sweep the floor of the class, oh, that is child abuse. Then what about Krishna and Sudama, trying to get some firewood and they were stuck in the storm and everything? What was that? Is that child abuse? So children should not do any work. They should serve the spiritual master menially. And that's how they learn humility. That's how the character gets built. Strong character gets built upon the foundation of humility. So so those who are English education, they don't have this. It's very, I'll show you something. This, I don't know if I've shown you this before. This is the Harinamamrita Vyakaran. This is the Sanskrit lessons with, Krishna's names. Now, this is a nice work that was done, definitely. But you see, this author is, of course, Jiva Goswami wrote this book originally. They're translated by Matsya Prabhu. Now, I want to show something in here. I showed to a few devotees, but you see, so this is a very first invocation prayer. It's a prayer to Jiva Goswami. I don't know who. Amrita means what. It's maybe by Vishwanath Chakravarti Ṭhākura or. So anyway, this very first, in the introduction chapter itself, there is Amrita's prayers to Jiva Goswami. And the first verse, it is said, I won't read the full thing, but it said, Sa Śrīla Jiva Charana Sharanam Mamastu. Śrīla Jiva Charana. That means the lotus feet of Jiva Goswami. Sharanam Mamastu. May the lotus feet of Jiva Goswami be my shelter. But you know what he wrote? Śrīla Jiva Charana. He translated as the Venerable Śrīla Jiva Goswami. Charana means the feet, right? And if you see the word Charana in any Bhagavatam verses, the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, every time Prabhupada translates it as lotus feet, right? Here the feet is gone, the Venerable Śrīla Jiva Goswami, and then there is a footnote, number 10. So I went and read the footnote. You see his explanation. In phrases like Śrīla Jiva Charanaha and Śrīla Rupa Goswami Padaha, the words Charana and Pada, which literally mean foot, are used merely to indicate respect. This is a Sanskrit idiom. Rather than addressing respectable persons directly, one addresses their feet. Thus, here I translated Charana as venerable. He's explaining why he thinks he is right in doing so. But I would totally argue against it. Now, I'm probably going to read in this and then maybe learn some of this grammar here. But I don't agree to this attitude where you try to, just say Charana as venerable. This is a disease of the Western education, English education. There's a problem because you see he's a Westerner, and unfortunately, I'm not against Westerners, but unfortunately, he's conditioned with an English education. And surprisingly, even after learning all this Sanskrit and grammar and kind of becoming an expert in all of this, still that conditioning hasn't gone out. Venerable Śrīla Jiva Goswami. What is that venerable? Did Prabhupada translate like that? You see, when we meet a sadhu, we touch their feet physically. And when in our mind we're offering prayers, we should also touch the feet. Śrīla Jiva Charanaha, when it is said, Śrīla Rupa Goswami Padaha, or any such, Shri Guru Charana Padma. Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakti Sadma. So what should we translate that as? The venerable spiritual master is the only way to attain pure devotional service. Is that the way we should do? Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, Shemora Sampada, Shemor Bhajana Pujana. Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, the lotus feet of Shri Rupa Goswami, are the life and soul of my existence. They are the object of my devotion. So the entire song is on the feet of the Rupa Goswami. I mean, it is not something. Charana is just an idiom. This is rubbish. This is English education rubbish nonsense. We have to kick out those things, those conditionings from our heart. I can't agree to that because Prabhupada never did that. And it is not consistent with any of the Acharya's writings. It is always mentioned as the lotus feet. So why should we change? Why this venerable? What is that venerable? Yeah, venerable, fine, but that's not what is said there. Let the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Śrīla Jiva Goswami, be my shelter. Why can't you say? Oh, it doesn't sound nice in English. Lotus feet of spiritual master, lotus feet of Jiva Goswami sounds odd in English language. Well, we see language is purified by the pure devotee. Language is purified by the pure devotee. If it doesn't sound proper in English, that is an imperfection of the language. That's an incompetence of the language. But the spiritual master is so powerful that he can coin a phrase which will make the language perfect. It may not exactly follow the way of expressing in English. It doesn't matter. Let English be evolved. Not that we keep English the same and evolve the meaning of the Sanskrit words and of the actual philosophy. Why we should change the philosophy and mold the philosophy according to the language? No, the language has to be molded according to the philosophy. The language is a medium of communication, communicating the message. The language should not limit the message. The message should, if need be, alter the language. What is given first preference, what is given second preference? We should be mindful of these things. So, so this is a classic example of English education. Why submitting to the feet of someone is cannot be registered in English way of thinking? Or there is too much of a slave kind of mentality. Or bowing down is like too much of a slave mentality. What is wrong with slave mentality? We have to be a slave. Anyway, we are slave of Maya. Why can't we be a slave of Guru? We have to be a slave. That is the whole point. Otherwise, we cannot go back to Godhead. So, going on, these and similar thoughts are likely to occur to most persons who have received an English education when they are asked to accept the help of any particular person as a spiritual preceptor. The literature, science, and art of the West body forth. I don't find the meaning of the what is this body forth. Brings forth. Brings forth the principle of the liberty of the individual and denounce the mentality that leads one to surrender to however superior a person his right of choosing his own course. You see, this is English education. Oh, I will choose my path. You can guide me in what I want to do, um, and I will take your guidance as much as I need to. And then after that, if I need another guidance, I will just take another guidance. I will chalk my own path. That's the Western way of doing it. So they inculcate the necessity and high value of having faith in oneself. Is it not true? This is exactly the Western way of thinking. They inculcate the necessity and high value of having faith in oneself. Oh, you can do it. You have faith in yourself. What is this? That is not our way of thinking. We should have zero faith in ourselves. Because our very mind has brought us here for millions and millions and millions of births. We had full faith in our mind. And what did the mind do to us? Repeated birth and death. Because at the last moment of life, at the time of death, whatever we think with our mind, we become in our next life. Yam yam vapis maran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. So according to our mind, we go to our next body. So our mind, in which we put full faith in, cheated us. And again, we have to have faith in ourselves. Ourself means what? We don't even know who we are. To speak of the self, our understanding of self is mind, intelligence at the max. So how can we depend on our intelligence, our tiny mind? We can't. We should not have faith. In fact, it's just what we learned in the Srimad Bhagavatam class. We went through that verse. 563 Srimad Bhagavatam. तथा चोक्तम न कुर्यात् कर्हिचित् सख्यम मनसि ह्यनवस्थिते यद्विश्रम्भाच्चिराच्चीर्णं च स्कन्दतप ऐश्वरम्. All the learned scholars have given their opinion. What is that? The mind is by nature very restless and one should not make friends with it. If we place full confidence in the mind, what is that? Having faith in oneself. If we place full confidence in the mind, it may cheat us at any moment. Even Lord Shiva became agitated upon seeing the Mohini form of Lord Krishna, and Saubhari Muni also fell down from the mature stage of yogic perfection. Next verse. Nityam dadati kamasya chhidram tammanuyerayah yoginah kritamaitrasya patyurjaye vapumschari. An unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, and it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facility to enemies like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. कामो मन्युर्मदो लोभः शोकमोहभयादयः कर्मबन्धश्च यन्मूलः स्वीकुर्यात् को नु तद्बुधः. The mind is the root cause of lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. Combined, these constitute bondage to fruitive activity. What learned man would put faith in the mind? And here it is said, having faith in oneself. And I think, you see, this is 562. Sri Sukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's actions." See that? They do not put faith in the mind. So then what should I put faith on? And then if I can't even believe my own mind, then where should I put? We should put faith in Guru Sadhu Shastra. We should first of all understand that we are thoroughly incapable of, effecting our own self-realization. We have to depend on the mercy of the Guru and Sadhu and Shastra. There is a beautiful verse. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antyalila, 1.2. दुर्गमे पथिमेन्धस्य स्खलत्पादगतेर्मुहुः स्वकृपायष्टिदानेन सन्तः सन्त्ववलम्बनम्. This is a prayer of a devotee. My path is very difficult. I am blind, and my feet are slipping again and again. Therefore, may the saints help me by granting me the stick of their mercy as my support. Like those old people, when they cannot walk properly, they need a walking stick. So I am unable to walk this path of spiritual life. My path is very difficult. I am blind, moreover. And my feet are slipping again and again. That means I am repeatedly falling down. I am not able to stay on this track of spiritual life. Therefore, may the saints help me by granting me the stick of their mercy as my support. Not having any faith in oneself. Oh, I can walk. I can jump my way back to the spiritual world. Huh? No. Then Krishna will give us a chance to become a monkey. Okay, you jump around. Rascal. So, saints, he is asking the sadhus to please give the stick of their mercy. So, the mercy of sadhus is very important. What did Bhaktivinoda Thakur sing? What is that? Ekaki amar nahi paya bala hari nama sankirtane. What is that? Please share those that verse in the comment section if you can. So he's saying that ekaki amar nahi paya bala harinama sankirtane. Tumi kripa kore shraddha bindu diya. What is that? Kaho Krishna namadhane. Something like this. So, Oh Hey Vaishnav Thakur, that song. So you see, I alone am unable to chant the holy name. Please you give me your mercy so that I can chant. That's why we're always begging for the mercy of the spiritual master, the devotees. In fact, it is true. It is not that because I am capable of doing something, so I can do service. No. Every morning, what do we sing in the Tulsi Arati song? Seva adhikar diye koro nijadasi. Seva adhikar means please give me the authority to do service. Please grant me the permission to do the service of Krishna. So I should be permitted into the service of Krishna. I cannot say that I can do this, I can do that, so therefore I can do all this for Krishna. But Krishna does not want. That is, if we come with pride, Krishna does not want. You know how we will get more service, more opportunity for service? When we do the service that is given to us with utmost attention and care for not just 1 day, 2 days. No, regular, stable basis. Then devotees will notice, oh wow, this devotee is really taking the serious service very seriously. Okay, let me give some more opportunity, more. Then they will, the person will become trustworthy, at least, dependable. Hmm. So once we engage in whatever service is given to us first, not despising the service that we already have, but engaging it wholeheartedly, then eventually there will be more and more opportunities. But if I don't commit to the service given to me, or I cannot, you know, engage myself, I always fall back into, whatever it is. I cannot focus on my service. Then how? How will it work? So anyway, this is very important. The mercy of the devotees is granting me the stick of their mercy as my support. Okay, so they inculcate, this Western education inculcates the necessity and high value of having faith in oneself. But the good preceptor, what is that? Bona fide spiritual master. But the good preceptor claims our sincere and complete allegiance. The good disciple makes a complete surrender of himself at the feet of the preceptor. But the submission of the disciple is neither irrational nor blind. It is complete on condition that the preceptor himself continues to be altogether good. You see, it is complete surrender and submission on condition that the preceptor himself continues to be altogether good. The disciple retains the right of renouncing his allegiance to the preceptor the moment he is satisfied that the preceptor is a fallible creature like himself. In other words, if I take a guru and if he is found to be a fallible person, then I should reject him. Especially Diksha Guru. This is talking about Diksha Guru, good preceptor, bona fide spiritual master means a Diksha Guru. Yeah. That means it is not said that, oh, this is Vaishnava Aparad if I give up. No. Here he is saying the disciple retains the right of renouncing his allegiance to the preceptor the moment he is satisfied that the preceptor is a fallible creature like himself. Nor does a good preceptor accept anyone as a disciple unless the latter is prepared to submit to him freely. A good preceptor or a bona fide spiritual master is in duty bound to renounce a disciple who is not sincerely willing to follow his instructions fully. This is another thing. Oh, Prabhupada is so merciful, I can do whatever I want, Prabhupada will come and save me. Now, Prabhupada may be merciful, but he's not obliged. If we commit sin over and over again, then he's not obliged to, take us back anywhere. So these are very important things to remember. Okay, if a good preceptor is in duty bound to renounce a disciple who is not sincerely willing to follow his instructions fully. If a preceptor accepts as his disciple one who refuses to be wholly guided by him, or if a disciple submits to a preceptor who is not wholly good, such preceptor and such disciple are both of them doomed to fall from their spiritual state. No one is a good preceptor who has not realized the absolute. So, in other words, a spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, is a person who has realized the absolute truth. One who has realized the absolute is saved from the necessity of walking on the worldly path. The good preceptor or the bona fide spiritual master who lives the spiritual life, is therefore bound to be wholly good. He should be wholly free from any desire for anything of this world, whether good or bad. The categories of good and bad do not exist in the absolute. In the absolute, everything is good. We can have no idea in our present state of this absolute goodness. Submission to the absolute is not real unless it is also itself absolute. It is on the plane of the absolute that the disciple is required to submit completely to the good preceptor or bona fide spiritual master. On the material plane, there can be no such thing as complete submission. The pretense of complete submission to the bad preceptor is responsible for the corruptions that are found in the relationship of the ordinary worldly guru and his equally worldly minded disciples. So it's quite, self explanatory, but it's very important. All honest thinkers will realize the logical propriety of the positions set forth above. But most persons will be disposed to believe that a good preceptor in the above sense may not be found in this world. You see? Most persons will be disposed to believe that a good preceptor or a bona fide spiritual master in the above sense may not be found in this world. This is really so. Both the good preceptor or the bona fide spiritual master and his disciple belong to the spiritual realm. But spiritual discipleship is nevertheless capable of being realized by persons who belong to this world. Otherwise, there would be no religion at all in the world. This is the other thing. So we should not be the other extreme skeptic, where there is no one in this world who is actually a bona fide spiritual master. So I'll just be alone of myself, as if I am the one perfect in this world and I can affect my own spiritual. Yeah? So we should associate. Now let's take this to the practical side of things in our current context. Now we don't have physical association of Srila Prabhupada in this world, who is a pure devotee. If he was here, no doubt, everybody would, surrender to him, um, or at least say they would, or they will be much more, inclined. Now, Srila Prabhupada is physically not there. And you may say that, okay, I want to submit to the temple authorities, but they are also imperfect, right? So, whom to surrender? There's no, nobody to surrender. So, I won't surrender. So, here is something we have to learn. Now, sometimes the when we are judging a spiritual master, whether it is Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru, anybody, first of all, how sure are we that our judgment is factual? That is also another thing. This is where we make mistake, especially when the disciple is trying to figure out the guru and try to evaluate the guru. He makes this mistake many a time, which is to judge based on what he thinks is right. For example, um, a guru should have conquered kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. So there should be no, for example, anger in him, krodha, one of the six things. But sometimes a devotee may get angry. You can see even Prabhupada getting angry many times. How is this sadhu? How he has not conquered his senses, and how is he correct? How is he bona fide? Hmm? Or, oh, he should not be greedy. Oh, they're collecting so much funds, this temple. So much, they're trying to raise funds. Every time you see fundraising, something, they're selling books. Everything is a business, commercial temple. They call us commercial temple sometimes. Especially ISKCON, like ISKCON Bangalore or, ISKCON. Oh, they've become commercial temple. What do you mean by commercial temple? What do you mean? Oh, only money. Well, money is necessary for the running of a temple. And if I can give my money, that is good for me. Why should I blame them? If they are after money, what am I after? Not money, is it? I'm also after money, right? But my money is for what? My sense gratification. So their money is what they're doing with the money. They're using it in Krishna's service. So why I can't give that? So I may sometimes make my own version of the faults. I may interpret something as fault when it is not so. Because I am at fault, I see everything as fault. So this is where a disciple makes many mistakes in trying to understand the guru. Hmm. So especially in our case when Prabhupada is not physically around, um, how to take instruction from anyone then if they're not perfect? Well, those who are following the instructions of the spiritual master, if we follow their instructions, then we will be perfect also. Now it is not up to you to question whether how does he know what is the right thing he should instruct me. This is where the Diksha Guru, he will actually inspire the Shiksha Guru to instruct as the Diksha Guru would instruct. Hmm? So that's why a Shiksha Guru should always quote from references of the Diksha Guru. Then he will be protected. That's why we should always speak from Sadhu Shastra Guru and guide other devotees. And the proof is that, okay, how do I know he is right or wrong? Okay, so I should see what are his other products. Okay, maybe somebody else is trained by him. What is his? How is he trained? How good is he? How bad is he? Whatever. Okay, they're being trained nicely. They're advancing. So I mean, there is how to say credibility here. So we should not be too eager to remain forever a skeptic and always something he's doing, something he's doing. We should not be like that. Like Ramachandrapuri was like that. And also who was that? Amogha, is it? Um, son-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was also like that. So there was one time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the room, in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's room, and then, in the house, and then there were some ants passing by. Ants are everywhere usually. Ants were passing by, see, ants are here. That means this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually eating so much sweets that you see ants are going there. See how much his sense enjoyment he's doing. Sense gratification. Eating sweets whole day. What kind of sannyasi is he? In this way, he started to criticize. Imaginary faults. Make up some faults in the head and start. Sometimes we think we are too smart. The temple devotees, I know better than them actually. Who are they to instruct me after all? They're not so intelligent. I'm more intelligent than them actually. I do understand. I understand philosophy even better than them, some of them at least. These are valid thoughts will come. Not valid. These are actual thoughts that come to the people. That how can I take instruction from somebody who's not so intelligent as me? This is my problem. When I think I'm superior, that is the sign of an inferior person. A person who thinks himself superior is inferior by definition. Because Sarvottam apna ke hina korimane, the pure devotee who is the topmost Sarvottam, he will consider himself as Naradham, the lowest of mankind, not even mankind. Purushara kitohoy muisa laghishta. I am worse than the worm in the stool, and that is how the highest person speaks. Whereas the lowest person will speak that he is the highest. You know, that he is smarter than anybody else. That is a sign of an idiot. That's a sign of an idiot, a rascal. And such person cannot last in devotional service for very long unless he changes his attitude. He has to change his attitude, otherwise he cannot last. Because he will always think he's smarter, he will always think he's better than anybody else, and he performs devotional service in the modes of passion and ignorance. If you don't know what those are, you know, Srimad Bhagavatam, 329. 8. 329.8 Srimad Bhagavatam. Abhisandhaya yohimsam dambham matsaryameva va samrambhid bhinna drigbhavam mai kuriyat satamasaha. Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent, and angry, and who is a separatist is considered to be in the mode of darkness. Devotional service in Tamogun. Next, 329.9. विषयानभिसन्धाय यश ऐश्वर्यमेव वा अर्चादावर्चयेद्यो मां पृथग्भावः स राजसः. The worship of the deities in the temple by a separatist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. See, motive is material enjoyment, fame, and opulence. Is devotion in the mode of passion. So these things, devotional service in the base modes, then that is not going to help us. That's not going to help us. So we should be humble and give up our false prestige and take to the instructions. Then we will make actual advancement. Until then, there will be no advancement. Okay, so reading on. Both the good preceptor and his disciple belong to the spiritual realm, but spiritual discipleship is nevertheless capable of being realized by persons who belong to this world. Otherwise, there would be no religion at all in the world. This is the other thing. Oh, there is nobody perfect in this world, so so I should not follow anybody. So nobody follows anybody. Just everybody do whatever the hell they want. What is the meaning of that? Then no more religion. No? No more religion. No need of religion. Then religion is there to elevate us. Religion is there to elevate us. So we should follow in the footsteps of the pure devotee. Then we will be perfect. Otherwise, there will be no religion at all in the world. But because the spiritual life happens to be realizable in this world, it does not follow that it is the worldly existence which is capable of being improved into the spiritual. So, we should not confuse between the two, between material and spiritual. Or just because a person in this material world can also be in complete touch with the spiritual world and Krishna, does not mean that the material from the bad tamogun it will go to sattvagun and eventually such material improvement will eventually become spiritual. No. It is not a transition from material to goodness and then such material existence will be transformed into spiritual. No. So quite the opposite. You see. So let's read on. As a matter of fact, the one is perfectly incompatible with the other. Perfectly incompatible. That means material life and spiritual life completely incompatible with the other. Not that the worldly existence is capable of being improved into the spiritual. No. They are categorically different from one another. The good preceptor or the bona fide spiritual master, although he appears to belong to this world, is not really of this world. No one who belongs to this world can deliver us from worldliness. The good preceptor is a denizen of the spiritual world who has been enabled by the will of God to appear in this world in order to enable us to realize the spiritual existence sent by Krishna. The much vaunted individual liberty, that means much praised, individual liberty is a figment of the diseased imagination. We are bound willingly or unwillingly to submit to the laws of God in the material world as well as in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, we are willingly bound. In the material world, we are unwillingly bound, but we are always bound to the laws of God. So we are bound willingly or unwillingly to submit to the laws of God in the material as well as in the spiritual world. The hankering for freedom in defiance of His laws is the cause of all our miseries. This liberty, this wanting to become, liberated or liberated from all kinds of rules and all kinds of, um, defiance of his laws, of Krishna's laws, is the cause of all of our miseries. So people may say, "Oh, how can you, become slave of Krishna, slave of the Guru?" Well, if I don't become a slave here, then I'll become a slave of Maya. But we don't see that. The Maya is so perfect that we don't see that we are a slave. We think we are, she makes us think that we are, in complete control when we are under complete control of her. That's Maya. The hankering for freedom in defiance of his laws is the cause of all our miseries. The total abjuration of all hankering for such freedom is the condition of admission to the spiritual realm. The total abjuration means this total cessation or the stoppage of all hankering for such freedom from Krishna's laws is the condition of admission to the spiritual realm. Once we become a slave of Krishna, thinking that sanatha jivitam bhavantamevanucharan nirantara prashanta nishesha manorathantara kadahamaikāntika nitya kinkara praharshayishyami sanatha jivitam. This is by Yamunacharya. By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a fitting master? But if we don't become a slave of Krishna like this, then this is our other position. What is our position? Here. कामादीनां कति न कतिधा पालिता दुर्निदेशास् तेषां जाता मयि न करुणा नत्र पानोपशान्तिः उत्सृज्यैतानथ यदुपते साम्प्रतं लब्धबुद्धिस्त्वामायातः शरणमभयं मां नियुङ्क्ष्वात्मदास्ये. O my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of lusty desires. We are a slave to our lusty desires. If I don't become a slave of Krishna, this is my other, position. O my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of lusty desires. Although I have rendered these desires so much service, they have not shown any mercy to me. I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor have I even desired to give them up. O my Lord, O head of the Yadu dynasty, recently, however, my intelligence has been awakened and now I am giving them up. Due to transcendental intelligence, I now refuse to obey the unwanted orders of these desires, and I now come to you to surrender myself at your fearless lotus feet. Kindly engage me in your personal service and save me. So I have been slave to Maya, I want to be your slave. Only then will I conquer Maya. The total abjuration of all hankering for such freedom is the condition of admission to the spiritual realm. Full-time life in the temple means actually this. Abjuration of all hankering for such freedom. In this full-time life, there is no freedom. There is no freedom. You can't just do whatever you want here. This is a glimpse of the full-time life. So we have to always follow the authority, which we should actually always follow, even if we are not full-time. In fact, even householders, the rule is that actually, by right, even if they want to have a child, they should have sex only by the permission of the Guru. They should ask the Guru, we want to have intercourse so that we want to have a child. Is it okay? Not that I have already decided and then I ask for the blessings of the Guru. No. I should ask, first of all, I have this idea, is it okay or not? That is the first question I should ask. Not that I have decided on doing something, like usually devotees do that. I have already decided one plan I made a plan. And now I want the devotee's blessing so that my plan will become successful. That's not the way to approach. That's wrong. I should ask the devotees. I'm thinking like this. Is it a right thing to do? First ask. If the devotee says yes, if he guides properly, then you start even endeavoring. It's not that I just make some decision and then, ask the devotees to kindly bless my decision. Okay, first of all, where is the decision? Is it even proper decision or not? The devotees may, of course, say that, okay, wish you all the best. You know, but have I even asked the opinion of the devotees before I embarked on something? So that must be done first. And if the devotee says no, I should not do it. And that is exactly what full time life is. I just can't do anything I like. I have to follow the authority. And the sense of liberation that brings is inexplicable and ununderstandable by those who have not surrendered. When we have too many options on our plate, we become spoiled for choice and become actually a spoiled brat. That's why it is good to not taste the freedom of money. You know, His Grace Nugopal Prabhu, he taught me a very important lesson. Um, this was when I just finished my education. So I had some student loan to pay off. So I told Prabhu this. You see, I have some student loan I have to pay off. Um, this was actually just like about 2 months. Like there were 2 more months of my study to go, and after that, I have to start paying off the student loan. Now, I so at that time I asked Prabhu, see, in 2 months' time, this is my position, and let me pay off the student loan. I'll stay in the temple. I'll go to work, find some job somewhere, go to work, earn the money, and pay off the student loan, and then join full time. Prabhu said, no, we will do some arrangement. Hmm. We will ask somebody, whatever it is, we will make some arrangement. It was actually a couple of $100 every month or something like that. So we'll make arrangement, but you're not going to work. No, I don't want to burden the temple. I don't want to burden the devotees or something. I was arguing like that. See, I want to finish off my. No. You're not going to work. Then, no, but I don't feel nice. Prabhu said, just listen. Okay? You listen to what, you don't argue. I'm telling you, you don't work. That's it. Because he said, once you taste the freedom of money, you will never surrender again. You should not taste the freedom of money. I said, okay. I did not like taking help from the devotees. But Prabhu said, no, this is not for your thing. This is for, something that you have to pay back. But you should, you know, serve Krishna full on. So I agreed and I joined up. And, I think in a couple of years, anyway, that thing was, I did not pay anymore. Um, so for 2 years, I was taking that help in the beginning for paying off my student loan. So the point that is important here is that Prabhu said, you listen. First of all, you listen, you take instructions, learn to take instructions, and follow those instructions. Don't have your own ideas. Spiritual life is not about having your own ideas and doing your own way. You have to follow the instructions. And then I said, okay. Then slowly he explained why you should not taste money. Money will throw you away from Krishna. Because once you have the independence, okay, I can buy whatever I want, I can have whatever I want, I can have some security, I can save up some money. Then you start making plans, What if I have a family and yeah, this and that, this and that? It will just go. It will just go. The mind will just, so much facility will be given to the mind to, enjoy sense gratification. None of that is allowed in full-time life. And that is the saving grace. I should not have that. Even if I want, I just can't go anywhere I want. Sometimes somebody asked me, I think I told that time, somebody was asking me, please come to India, I said, see, I just can't go wherever I want. I have to act under authority. Whatever I am said, I should do that. That is discipline. Now you may think, oh, that is like too much, I can't breathe like that. I should be able to breathe. I should have my own space. These words they use, these English education people. English education people. What is that? I need my space. You be here in the, roaming around in the space. Brahman sarvam bhutani yantra rodhani maya. What is that? A brahmanda bhramite. A brahmanda bhramite. We can move in space. No space, nothing. And actually, honestly, one will be so liberated. You will not feel claustrophobic if we are agreeable to such, control. We will not feel claustrophobic. In fact, we feel protected. So, money is the root cause of all evil. Absolutely perfect. It is. Because what is evil? Going away from Krishna is evil. And money facilitates that. Facilitates that. And without money, I will have no choice but to, And mind you, it is not because, oh, you're just, ridding yourself of all the facility of money and thereby you're forcing yourself, oh, now I have no money. If I go away from the temple, I'll have no job. So, okay, let me stay in the temple. So you're just staying in the temple because, you can't get work anywhere else. No, 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 no. So that is the beginning, right? Beginning in the sense where I should not have the freedom of, money and able to do whatever I want to do. Now, eventually, when one tastes this life, then one automatically doesn't want. Not because, oh, without earning, I'm already having all conveniences. So why should I work? I'll just, be happy here. People will give donations. I will eat and sleep. No, no, that is rubbish. If one tries to do that, Krishna will not allow that to happen. Krishna will not allow his premises to be used for sense gratification. So there will be punishments. And if he doesn't take the advice, all the lessons seriously, he may even be kicked out. That will happen. And I have seen many who have gone out like that. So one has to be on the edge of his seat or on his toes always. And one must genuinely develop affection for Krishna. We are not here to live, have a comfortable life. Oh, Krishna will protect me, Krishna will provide for me. I can just stay here and no. Don't even think of protection and everything. Krishna will automatically do. That is not the reason why we are, doing service to him. We should do our service to him because out of love, out of preeti. Spontaneously, we should feel like I should do something for Krishna. This is my position. How can I stay without doing something for Krishna? So it should be our driving factor, our driving force. That I must do. This is my relationship with Krishna. So it is no more bound by all these external factors. External factors are, required in the beginning, like having no money and everything. That should be the principle even afterwards. But that should not be the motivating factor, or that should not be the control, guardrails. They are guardrails, yes, but one should always not be falling on the guardrails and walking, right? You know what's guardrails? Those when you're getting down the staircase, there are this guardrails which you hold and get down. If there are no guardrails, you will fall off the staircase. So that's not good. So you need to have guardrails. But just because there are guardrails, it's not that I'm always falling and then only saved by the guardrails and nothing else. No, I should walk properly on the staircase, and that's just like there to just keep me in case anything happens. So these lack of so-called freedom is actually a blessing. Is actually a blessing, because then we will have nothing else but to surrender to Krishna, and I'm focused. I'm not distracted. If I have money, I have too many distractions. Oh, let me do this, let me do that. Big plans. Not focusing on my service. So, in this world, we desire this freedom, but are compelled against our will to submit to the inexorable laws of physical nature. So, we're reading on. In this world, we desire this freedom, but are compelled against our will to submit to the inexorable laws of physical nature. This is the unnatural state. Such unwilling, forced submission does not admit us into the spiritual realm. In this world, the moral principle indeed claims our willing submission. But even morality also is a curtailment of freedom necessitated by the peculiar circumstances of this world. The soul who does not belong to this world is in a state of open or caught rebellion against submission to an alien domination. Okay, let's go one by one. Such unwilling forced submission does not admit us into the spiritual realm. You see, in this material world, we are forced by the nature. We are submitting actually. We think we don't want to submit to Krishna. Oh, I cannot give up. I cannot, like full time. Then I will be full time servant of Maya. No. I'm part time now. And some there and some here also. Here also I'm doing now, and that money also I'm donating something to here, Krishna. So in this way we settle down. This way we settle down and not advance further. We are happy just here contributing a few dollars or a few rupees, and then yeah, I will chant every day, read whenever I can, and do other things also because they are also important. That will be my mentality. In this world, we desire the freedom but compel against it. Okay, so this is unnatural submission state. Such unwilling, forced submission does not admit us into the spiritual realm. In this world, the moral principle indeed claims our willing submission. Yeah. So, if we want to be moral, we have to be submit. We have to submit to certain laws of morality. But even morality also is a curtailment of freedom necessitated by the peculiar circumstances of this world. You see, for example, the gopis going to Krishna, people criticize. Huh? Gopis going to Krishna, people criticize in this world. Oh, how can this is somebody we were um, we were at a bazaar when we had a stall selling our books. So I just walked away from the stall, and one of the Matajis was there selling the books there. Then so one lady came, and she looked at all the books and all that. So this Mataji was trying to sell the book, and she looked at a Krishna book. Oh no! And she saw Radha and Krishna. Ajuju, I don't want this book, because the Mataji was asking her to purchase this one. No? You have Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, I have. Then you take the Krishna book. Aju, I don't want to take this. Why? What happened? So, apparently, her husband just had an extramarital affair, and he kind of left that lady and came back to her. And here is a Radharani who, Radha and Krishna having extramarital affairs. So I don't want. This is how she's looking at Radha and Krishna. When the chastity of Radharani is so pure that even Lakshmi Devi herself cannot sufficiently make herself qualified to enter the Ras Leela. She could not. Even after doing so much tapasya, she could not enter Ras Leela. So Lakshmi Devi tries to learn chastity from Radharani. Okay, for example, okay, these gopis had husbands and they went to Krishna in the dead of night. What is wrong in that? For example, even today, many women who have husbands worship either sometimes Krishna, sometimes Ram, sometimes even Shiva, sometimes Hanuman, who are all male other than the husband. So is that a extramarital affair with Hanuman, with Shiva, with Ganesh, with mm, Kartikeya, with Shiva, I mean, Krishna or Ram? Ram only has Ekapatni. You going and chanting his name and disturbing him. What are you doing? Extramarital affair, is it? Is that called an extramarital affair? When you, and especially so when it is referred to Krishna or Ram, Vishnu. Is it? No, right? Then why is it considered extramarital affair? It resembles. One can have husband and everything. One can still worship Krishna, right? So is that so? Even our Hare Krishna devotees, there are many female devotees, right? They're chanting Hare Krishna and they have a husband at home. So what? They are having extramarital affair with Krishna. What is that? So we are eternally related with Krishna. In fact, to be very honest, our affairs in this material world are extramarital affairs because Krishna is the real pati. He is the real husband. He is the real protector. He is the real maintainer. He is the real father. Everything is his. He for us. Our reality is that he is our real husband. We are Prakriti. We are female by nature. And Krishna is the original male. Govindam Adi Purusham. Adi Purusham means the original male. He is the original male. He is the enjoyer. We are to, participate in his enjoyment, cooperate in his enjoyment. So we are female. He is our pati. Now, we are having an extramarital affair with our so-called husband in this material world or wife. That relationship is the extramarital affair. Let's turn the tables. Who is doing the actual extramarital affair? We are doing in this material world whatever our relationship is illegal relationships, illicit relationships. But Krishna is kind enough because we cannot completely go to him, leaving aside everything. He is saying, okay, fine. You have those illicit relationships, have a wife, get children, but understand that she is actually my servant. These children are also my servants, and engage them and train them all in Krishna consciousness. In this way, our illicit propensities are somehow Krishna is even accepting those and dovetailing them in his service and gradually purifying us. We have ulterior motives. We are not interested in Krishna, we are interested in something else. He said, okay, fine. You do that something else and slowly regulate yourself and come to me. So he is so kind. You imagine the lady, her husband went and had an extramarital affair. She will not, she will not keep quiet. She will just, shout at him like anything, and big Mahabharat will happen in the house, right? But here, Krishna is seeing that we are eternally related to him, but now we are having so many illicit relationships with every kind of. When we were pig, we had an illicit relationship with other pigs. Okay, when we were dog, we were having a illicit relationship with other dogs. So we had illicit relationships, millions and trillions of them. Still, Krishna is hoping that we will come back to our original relationship with him. And when we want to become devotee, also, we still want marriage. We still want some illicit relationship in this world. However morally upright relationships in this world they are, like parents and children, everything, if from the spiritual point of view, everything is illicit here. So we have these tendencies, we have these desires, and Krishna says, okay, fine. We are coming to him, still we have those relations. Okay, you do those things and slowly understand that they are actually my servants and engage them in my service, and in that way you become purified and come to me and bring them to me. So he is giving us an idea of how to even regulate and dovetail our materialistic illicit tendencies to his service and eventually get pure. So morality in this material world, when we accuse Krishna and Radha of such immoral activities, when we are ourselves thoroughly immoral in every single way. So, in other words, the so-called morality of this material world is itself a, you see, that's right. But even morality also is a curtailment of freedom necessitated by the peculiar circumstances of this world. For example, Prahlad Maharaj, he had to be, you know, obedient to his father. That is a regulative principle. That is one of the religious principles. One has to respect one's father and mother. That is there in Bhagavad Gita also. But what if the father is like Hiranyakashipu? Then how can Prahlad submit to him? He disobeyed his father. And that is one example. Another example is the Kumaras, the four Kumaras. They disobeyed their father, Brahma. Brahma was not a Hiranyakashipu, but Brahma asked them to marry and increase population. At the time, universe had very few people, so he asked them to increase population. So they said no, we're not interested. We will be sannyasis. So for a higher purpose, for a spiritual purpose, even such moral principles as respecting one's parents and anything or honoring any kind of relationship in this material world, which is otherwise considered moral, can be given up for Krishna. For example, Sridhar Swami, classic example. He was a brahmacharya, so he wanted to take sannyas. Mother and father said, "You are our only son. Please, get married." Okay, to satisfy them, he got married. After marriage, he wanted to take sannyas. Now you may say that is irresponsible. How can he has wife and That's the thing. That's the thing. Again, it looks immoral. Oh, how can he just give up his wife and go and take sannyas? Well, for the higher purpose, when one is doing it, every other consideration has to take backseat. Nothing else matters more than this. So he wanted to take sannyas, but wife said, no, at least give me a son before you take sannyas. Okay. Then, he had sex with her. She became pregnant. So he was waiting, okay. At least, after the child is born, I'll take sannyas. Okay, then he waited. Then time of birth came. Child was born. His wife died. Now he was left with the child in his arms and he was thinking, Krishna, what has happened to my life? I wanted to become sannyasi. What have you left me with? I mean, a baby in my hands without a wife. What am I going to do? How am I going to bring up this child now? Then at that time, he saw one lizard falling from the tree under which he was sitting. Small baby lizard, just born. Small lizard. He was looking at the lizard. And the lizard found some insect and then quickly grabbed the insect and then ate. And then he went into the bushes. Then he saw, okay. So if Krishna can give this baby just born, this lizard, and then Krishna can give the food and maintenance for this lizard, why can't he give maintenance to this boy? He put the boy there, he left, took sannyas. Now you may say, hey, what is this? No responsibility of father, nothing, just running away and thinking, oh, we're great acharya. What is this nonsense? People speak like this. What kind of morality? What are you teaching? What example you are setting? Big acharya. Don't know how to take care of your son, then why did you have sex? Many accusations will come, right? If you do not want to have son, then why did you have any relationship with your wife? Why did you get married? They will say many things. Don't bother. If one is in that state, of course, if he is thinking after he goes and then I did not take care of my son. My wife is maybe crying now. Yeah, and go back. That kind of nonsense we don't want. But if one is serious, then he has to. He nothing else matters. Like for example, I'll tell you. Now, soldier. He has a wife and children, whatever, and then he's at the border fighting for the country. and suppose in a fight, in a skirmish, he loses his life. Can you call that soldier an irresponsible person to leave his family and a young child and young wife, and then he has gone away, and then um, what is this? He has given up his life. Is not even responsible enough. Do we say that, or do we say that he's brave and we honor his family and we honor him for having given up his life for the country? So if country is such an important cause that when one gives up one's family, it is he's adored and respected for that. Why not God? Why not somebody who has given his life to God? Yeah, who owns all countries, who owns all planets, and not only that, these soldiers, they are at the border so that we can live freely, right? So basically, they are fighting for our freedom. But what is the devotee doing by taking sannyas? He is also preaching, and he's fighting for the freedom of the whole world, because they're all bound by the material laws of nature. Everybody is suffering. So he is fighting for their freedom. He is a freedom fighter of a much bigger, much more greater measure. The ultimate freedom. Because even if you become free from another country, you will get again ruled and again under the laws of material nature. You are not going anywhere. It's an illusion of freedom. Um, so independence, true independence will come when we become dependent on Krishna. That's why I wrote one article once in our magazine. Independence in dependence. Independence in dependence. So I wrote one article like that. So there is the independence in the dependence on Krishna. So that is when we truly become independent. Uh, so these freedom fighters, real freedom fighters are the devotees. Nobody else. Nobody else is a freedom fighter. It's an illusion of freedom. So how much greater is this cause? So how can we simply accuse such devotees without understanding the importance of what they're doing? The child can always be adopted by anybody, and he can be taken care of. But this is more important and more urgent. That's why the urgency, we don't realize the urgency. Of course, we don't say that everybody should now follow Sridhar Swami and give up their children and walk. They have no such capability also, the renunciation that he has. But to a lesser degree, at least we can follow some things where we can join full time, even if that displeases our parents or our whoever family members. That is still that we can still do, and we should do that. It doesn't matter whether somebody is not satisfied. You cannot satisfy the whole world, but after some time they will come to accept it. That's all. Anyway, so reading on, the soul who does not belong to this world. Yeah, the soul who does not belong to this world is in a state of open or caught rebellion against submission to an alien domination. So we actually don't belong here. We are in an alien domination now. This is an alien world. This is not our real home. And we are dominated by Maya. So we are in a state of open or caught rebellion against submission to an alien domination. It is by his very constitution capable of submitting willingly only to the absolute. Yeah. So we are actually only capable of submitting willingly only to the absolute. Here we only unwillingly submit. We don't willingly submit here. Unwillingly we submit. The good preceptor or the bona fide spiritual master asks the struggling soul to submit not to the laws of this world, which will only rivet his chains, but to the higher law of the spiritual realm. You know what is rivet? There is this like a nail, but it's a rivet. I I learned this hardware job, when we were doing some repairs early on in my Krishna consciousness. When we went to the farm, when we had to build a shed and all that, we used to do riveting. And this rivet is by air compression, it is pushed into the thing, very very high force, and it's basically like a screw and a bolt, something like that, and it holds two things together, like two plates of metal or something like that. They rivet them together, so it'll like um, secure it without letting it move. So rivet, the good preceptor asks the struggling soul to submit not to the laws of this world, which will only rivet his chains, but to the higher law of the spiritual realm. The pretense of submission to the laws of the spiritual realm without the intention of really carrying them out into practice is often mistaken for genuine submission by reason of the absence of fullness of conviction. Whoa, let's read that again. The pretense of submission to the laws of the spiritual realm without the intention of really carrying them out into practice is often mistaken for genuine submission by reason of the absence of fullness of conviction. In this world, the fully convinced state is non existent. We are therefore compelled in all cases to act on make believes, viz., the so called working hypothesis. The good preceptor tells us to change this method of activity, which we have learned from our experience of this world. He invites us, first of all, to be really and fully informed of the nature and laws of the other world, which happens to be eternally and categorically different from this phenomenal world. Okay, let's read the whole thing and come back to it now. If we do not sincerely submit to be instructed in the alphabets of the life eternal, but go on perversely, asserting, however unconsciously, our present processes and so called convictions against the instructions of the preceptor in the period of novitiate, we are bound to remain where we are. Okay, that's a lot of English to digest, right? So, I hope we can do justice to this. The pretense of submission to the laws of the spiritual realm without the intention of really carrying them out into practice is often mistaken for genuine submission by reason of the absence of fullness of conviction. So, because I'm not, this is actually so subtle and so deep. You see, um, I'm not convinced, and therefore I want to submit, but I'm not, like a pure devotee, like Sridhar Swami or Prahlad Maharaj or anybody. So I don't carry them out into practice. I don't have the intention of actually carrying them out. But I got under the garb of, okay, I'm not as advanced to do that, and therefore I should. Nowadays, um, some ISKCON devotees and even ISKCON Bangalore devotees, sometimes they're doing this. They advise us, when our devotees meet them here and there, they pass comments. They say, even ISKCON also, they are also writing in the comment section of our videos. They say, oh, see, Prabhupada said, so and so is a rascal, or some strong words he used, or said that he's not following and everything. That is Prabhupada. That's Prabhupada. He is pure. He can do all of that. We cannot. We are not Prabhupada. So we should not imitate Prabhupada. So therefore, we should not be strongly criticizing, Vivekananda or this kind of stuff. Any bogus gurus. We should do in a more tactful, in a more digestible, in a more mellowed down, sweet, huh? Stupid way, basically. So basically, that other person should not understand that the other guy is a bogus. That's we just get their money and that's it. So that's what they want. They want to do. So and they don't have the guts to actually speak the truth boldly. To cover up that, they say that I don't have that fullness of conviction. So actually it is, the pretense of submission to the laws of the spiritual realm without the intention of really carrying them out. Yeah, I want to follow. But I'm not as pure as Prabhupada, so I cannot do the same thing as him. He criticizes, I cannot criticize. I must glorify. Huh? What is the reasoning here? Huh? What is the reasoning? I should glorify the rascals. It's because I can't do it. I have to learn how to do it. I have to have the strength to do it. I should pray for the strength to do it. Prabhupada did not go to America thinking that I will be the one prophesied by Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I am the one. I will deliver the whole world. That is not the mood Prabhupada went in. Neither did he say, I am so incapable, I am this and that, and therefore I'll sit down in Vrindavan. I won't go. I am actually not qualified to go there. No. He said, I am not qualified. I am the most insignificant beggar. I don't know why, Krishna, you brought me here to America, but I just want to fulfill the order of my spiritual master. I want to execute his order. And if you think that I should become a success, please make me a success. Or if you think that I should be a failure, so be it. So we should ourselves feel incapable. At the same time, utmost effort should be there to execute the order of the spiritual master. Both should be there. One should think that he is totally incapable. At the same time, he should do everything that he is capable of within his means. Everything that is possible. He should stretch himself to do whatever it takes to fulfill. And then if there is success or failure, that's another thing. But this thing is very dangerous. The pretense of submission to the laws of the spiritual realm without the intention of really carrying them out into practice is often mistaken for genuine submission by reason of the absence of fullness of conviction. In this world, the fully convinced state is non-existent. Then that means what? Nobody can be fully convinced here. In other words, when one becomes fully convinced, he is not of this material world. Like Prabhupada. He is fully convinced that the order of his spiritual master will work. This prophecy will come true. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Prithiviti Achachatanagaradigram. This will come true. So Prabhupada was confident. Not in his ability. He said the force of the order of my spiritual master is so strong that nothing can go against it. It will happen. It has to happen. Because it carries the force of the order of my Guru. And there's nothing in this world that can challenge it. That was his confidence. Because Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura wanted it. And if I can be a part of this, I will be, blessed. That is the mood with which he went. And he's teaching us how to go. So in other words, if we become fully convinced in, Krishna, his service, the surrender, then we are no more in this material world. That is the meaning of this world. In this world, the fully convinced state is non-existent. That does not mean, nobody can be actually fully convinced. No. They can be fully convinced. And once they are fully convinced, they are in the spiritual world immediately. That's it. What is the meaning? That is the meaning. That's why earlier, what is that other, he said that, people will think that there is no such bona fide spiritual master in this world. And Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura said, yes, actually it is so. Because the bona fide spiritual master is not of this world. Then what is he doing in this world? Yeah, he may externally be here, but actually he is in the spiritual world always. We are therefore compelled in all cases to act on make-believes, viz. The so-called working hypotheses. I don't even understand. Compelled in all cases to act on make-believes. So-called working hypotheses. I don't fully understand actually. The part I can understand is whatever works in this material world, whatever is seen to be working, we may follow that. But the fully convinced state that the spiritual world, that thing works is not there in us. And whatever we see working in this material world, we may have faith only in them. That much That is what I understand from this verse, but I'm not sure if that is exactly what he's saying. Okay, so the good preceptor or the bona fide spiritual master tells us to change this method of activity which we have learned from our experience of this world. So yeah, I think that's what it is. Because the method of activity which we have learned from our experience of this world is that our materialistic way, like for example, Prabhupada, okay, America preaching, okay, full plan layout, okay, visa to here to to America, okay, from there, I'm going to meet that guy, this guy, and I'm going to get green card there. um, I'm going to exactly do that thing, and I'm going to get green card, and at the same time I'll just raise funds from here, and then set up a printing machine here, printing press in this part of the world, and then I'll do that, and then I'll send exactly 4 devotees to another country, and then start a temple there. And after that, I'm going to start 2 temples in the 2 neighboring cities. And after that, I'll jump to the next country. Nothing of that sort. So we usually, for example, in a ordinary setting, we would have some plan. Okay, after this, and this, and okay, have a rough plan, and then have some security of that plan. But Prabhupada just went across the ocean. Don't know what is going to happen. You don't even going to be alive on the ocean even. He just went, and then he went to Boston. He said, "I don't know whether I have to turn right or left. I don't know where am I. Where is the correct path?" And that was Prabhupada. Just conviction. That requires extraordinary amounts of faith. The good preceptor tells us to change this method of activity which we have learned from our experience of this world. He invites us, first of all, to be really and fully informed of the nature and laws of the other world, which happens to be eternally and categorically different from this phenomenal world. Phenomenal world means material world. Categorically different means completely different, like opposite. If we do not sincerely submit to be instructed in the alphabets of the life eternal, but go on perversely asserting, however unconsciously, our present processes and so called convictions against the instructions of the preceptor, in the period of novitiate, we are bound to remain where we are. This is so important. So, see, if we do not sincerely submit to be instructed in the alphabet of the life eternal, what is the alphabets of life eternal? What is that? That means of the words or the instructions which are composed of alphabets. So if we do not submit ourselves to the instructions, spiritual instructions, but go on perversely asserting, however unconsciously, our present processes. No, we're in this material world, no, so we have to like work, we have to like earn our livelihood. Okay, some people, that's another thing, but we should not, you know, how to say, see everything and think that everything will work according to material. For example, spiritual strength and material strength, and Prabhupada mentions this. And the laws, how spiritual strength works, is very different from material strength. And if we go to this verse, it signifies very nicely Srimad Bhagavatam 9, 10, 20. तेनीकपारघुपतेरभिपत्य सर्वे द्वन्द्वं वरूथमिभपत्तिरथाश्वयोधैः जघ्नुर्द्रुमैर्गिरिगदेषुभिरङ्गदाद्या सीताभिमर्शहतमङ्गलरावणेशाम्. Angada and other commanders of the soldiers of Ramachandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses, and chariots of the enemy and hurled against them big trees, mountain peaks, clubs, and arrows. Thus, the soldiers of Lord Ramachandra killed Ravana's soldiers who had lost all good fortune because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. Now, in the purport, the real explanation is there. The soldiers Lord Ramachandra recruited in the jungle were all monkeys and did not have proper equipment with which to fight the soldiers of Ravana. For Ravana's soldiers were equipped with weapons of modern warfare whereas the monkeys could only throw stones, mountain peaks, and trees. Even that is actually a big thing, but compared to the modern warfare weapons of Ravana is nothing. It was only Lord Ramachandra and Lakshman who shot some arrows. But because the soldiers of Ravana were condemned by the curse of Mother Sita, the monkeys were able to kill them simply by throwing stones and trees. There are two kinds of strength, Daiva and Purushakara. Daiva refers to the strength achieved from the transcendence, and Purushakara refers to the strength organized by one's own intelligence and power. Transcendental power is always superior to the power of the materialist. Depending on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one must fight one's enemies even though one may not be equipped with modern weapons. Therefore, Krishna instructed Arjuna, Mam anusmara yudhyacha. Think of me and fight. We should fight our enemy to the best of our ability, but for victory we must depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the perfect explanation. We should fight to the best of our ability, but for victory we must depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's no laziness and there's no pride. If one is not lazy and one actually is a go getter, he has pride in his ability. So that pride should be not there. But if I don't have pride in my own ability, then I have no drive. I just have to sit down and like a vegetable. No, there's no laziness and there's no pride. There's full effort on one side, from one side, but wholly depending on Krishna at the same time. Ma manusmara yudhyacha. This is the meaning of Ma manusmara yudhyacha. So here, Daiva and Purushakara, material and spiritual strengths. So the law of the spiritual realm, the laws of the spiritual realm are very different from material realm. Even in Mahabharata, Arjuna, what is that verse? 1:15:19 is it? What is the time? Wow, 10:30. 1:15:19 is it? Nah. 16. यद्दोषुमा प्रणिहितं गुरुभीष्मकर्ण नप्तृत्रिगर्तशल्यसैन्धवबाह्लिकाद्यैः अस्त्राण्यमोघमहिमानि निरूपितानि नोपस्पृशुर्निरहरि दासमिवासुराणि. Now, great generals like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Bhurishrava, Susharma, Shalya, Jayadratha, and Bahlika all directed their invincible weapons against me. But by his or Lord Krishna's grace, they could not even touch a hair on my head. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, the supreme devotee of Lord Narasimhadev, was unaffected by the weapons the demons used against him. Show you this material and spiritual strength. There is a classic verse in the Bhagavad Gita. So, the first 10 verses of Bhagavad Gita are, especially the second to 10th verses of Bhagavad Gita, is Duryodhan trying to estimate how many great warriors they have, how many warriors we have. And finally comes to this conclusion, 1:10. Apariyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishmabhirakshitam paryaptam tvidam balam bhimabhirakshitam. He says, our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Apariyaptam means our strength is unlimited, immeasurable, whereas Pariyaptam, see, Apariyaptam, Pariyaptam. This Bhima, this Pandavas are limited strength. They don't have many great fighters. Only Bhima and Arjuna are the great fighters. Others are like, we have, you see, he named so many. We have Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Jayadrath, myself, Duryodhana also is a great fighter, you see. And then Bahalika and what is that? Shalya. So many invincible fighters they had. Dronacharya. But who won the war? Krishna's side. So, Yesham Pakshe Janardana, what is that? Jayatam Panduputranam Yesham Pakshe Janardana. So the Pandavas became victorious because Jayastu Panduputranam, sorry. Jayastu Panduputranam Yesham Pakshe Janardana. They won because Krishna was on their side. The Vanaras won because Ram was on their side. Spiritual strength. Different laws. So our processes we have learned, you know, they don't work. It's not that, okay, for example, it's not that Arjuna did not know anything. He was just a cowherd boy, came to the Kurukshetra war and suddenly shot some arrows. No, he was. Not that he was just like a fool, don't know anything. No, he was a great warrior himself. It is not that one should not do anything, just go without any preparation. No, one should be prepared. I mean, one should be qualified to do the job he's supposed to do. But you should understand that only by Krishna's mercy there will be victory. Whatever one has acquired, strength or talent or whatever, he should use that in Krishna's service. Now, others may be more talented than him, like Bhishma was more talented than Arjuna. Arjuna could never have won against Bhishma, or even Dronacharya for that matter. The trickery had to be used to finish Dronacharya off, and even Bhishma Dev off, because of that. What is that? The woman who became a man, Shikhandi. Shikhandi was put before Arjuna, and that's how he, fought against Bhishma. Arjuna fought by putting Shikhandi in front of him, because Bhishma Dev said, "I will not fight a woman." So Shikhandi was actually a woman, but she became a man. It's not that she was a eunuch. The people Mahabharata serial they showed him as a eunuch, half man, half woman, like gay. No, he was not that. He was a Maharatha. He was actually a man. So it was actually a woman, but she changed into a man. So, but Bhishma Dev saw him as a woman only. No, as a woman. I don't see her as a man. Woman only. I will not fight this woman. So whenever she came in front, he will stop shooting. And that time Arjuna from behind Shikhandi he will shoot. So in this way only Bhishma Dev could be defeated. Otherwise in a straight battle he could not. Karna. Also cheating had to be employed. He was unarmed when he was shot. So actually Arjuna could not have won the war. Could not have won the war. Even though he was so qualified. So we should give our best. Arjuna gave his best. And he was qualified, but he gave his best. Yet he was no match for them. Just like the Vanaras were no match for Indrajit or even Ravana or Kumbhakarna or any of them. But they just fought. That's the best they could do. And they did it. So we should do our best. Whatever is our capacity, our best we should do. And then depend on Krishna. If we do not sincerely submit to be instructed in the alphabets of the life eternal, but go on perversely asserting, however unconsciously, our present processes and so-called convictions against the instructions of the preceptor. This is important. So-called convictions against the instructions of the preceptor in the period of novitiate, means when you are a novice, a beginner, at that time we may have our convictions against the instructions of the preceptor. Like for example, moon landing. Don't know what these moon missions are going, where they are going. But the real moon, how can they get some black dust from there? I just can't understand this. The moon is shining like anything. How can you get black dust from there? So definitely they're going somewhere else. But anyway, Prabhupada said they're not landing on the moon. They're not. So where they're landing? Now we may, how can this, we may have different convictions. No, we should not have. Nowadays some devotees are actually getting agitated, when we say that moon is, farther away from the sun. In fact, Chandrayaan mission, when we did some video, Prabhupada video, that Prabhupada said, even if they go to the moon, what is the success? Just go there, collect some dust and come back. Might as well, there is so much suffering in this world. Do something about this. Why are you going there? What is the point of all this jumping? So somebody, one devotee actually commented, "This is a great disservice you are doing. People will now only, humiliate Prabhupada and disrespect him. Why are you sharing this kind of controversial quotes? Don't share. This is all disservice. You think you all are very, you know, gung ho devotees. You don't know how to preach." He was giving lecture in the comment section. No boldness, nothing. So that means he is actually convinced. He's actually convinced against the instructions of the preceptor in the period of novitiate. Then we are bound to remain where we are. And not only regarding the moon mission and everything, anything to have material attachments. 10th offense is that to maintain material attachments despite understanding so many instructions on this matter. What is that? That is against our conviction. We are convinced that we are the body, but that is against the instruction of the preceptor, of the guru, and of the shastra, of Krishna. So, to not give up those materialistic attachments and materialistic ideas, that is, then we will remain where we are. That's why Bahujanma kare jodi Shravan Kirtan Tabutana paye Krishna pade premathan. Even millions and millions of years, if we go on chanting and hearing like that, we will not get love of Krishna, which is the ultimate goal of the chanting. This also will amount to the practical rejection of all advice, because the two worlds have nothing in common, though at the same time we naturally fail to understand this, believing all the time in accordance with our accustomed methods that we are at any rate partially following the preceptor. This also will amount to the practical rejection of all advice, because the two worlds have nothing in common, though at the same time we naturally fail to understand this, believing all the time in accordance with our accustomed methods that we are at any rate partially following the preceptor. But as a matter of fact, when we reserve the right of choice, we really follow ourselves, because even when we seem to agree to follow the preceptor, it is because he appears to be in agreement with ourselves. Oof. These instructions are so deep and so nuanced and so intricate that they leave nothing for chance, nothing for speculation. He is just smashing every single minutest idea of iota of materialistic thought that we may have. He's not giving any chance. He says no chance. It's so dense. The attack is so dense. You see, this. Okay, let's read that again. So when our convictions are based in the whatever we have learned in this world, and they don't completely agree with what spiritual master says and the shastra says, then what happens? Then we are, first of all, our convictions don't go further. We cannot actually get our faith sufficiently, and this also will amount to the practical rejection of all advice, because once I give up on one thing, then my faith is shaken and there's nothing in common anymore. This will also amount to the two worlds have nothing in common, though at the same time we naturally fail to understand this, believing all the time in accordance with our accustomed methods that we are at any rate partially following the preceptor. So in other words, we think that it is only possible to partially follow the preceptor. It is never possible to fully follow the preceptor, because we are actually attached to our materialistic ways of life, and we settle down. We never think that, okay, I should fully follow. There is a lack of inclination to even fully follow, and we hide it under the garb of, oh, after all, this is Kali Yuga, this is material world, it's not all perfect, this and that. So this is how we settle down, and that's Maya's perfect perfect attack. We don't even realize it's an attack. We think we are following the preceptor or the guru. We are not. We will glide and glide and glide and glide without our noticing. We'll glide. So, but as a matter of fact, when we reserve the right of choice, we really follow ourselves. We're not following the Guru. Because when we reserve the right of choice, the whole point of Karishya Vachanam Tava means I have no choice, I will not exercise my choice. I will just do what you say. Sarvam etadritam manye yanmam vadase Keshava. Whatever you say, I will accept. Whatever you ask me to do, I will do. You know. So there is a choice was given up. But when we reserve the right of choice, that means what? We are refraining from fully giving ourselves to the order of the spiritual master. And that means we are following our own mind. Because even when we seem, so reading on, because even when we seem to agree to follow the preceptor, it is because he appears to be in agreement with ourselves. Wow. Yeah, this instructions of Prabhupada you can share because they're acceptable to people and to me also actually. Hmm. Yeah. I will say this as materialists will, materialists will attack me if I say about moon landing or attack Prabhupada. I'm not actually, I myself have no faith. Hmm. I myself have no faith. So therefore, don't share that part of the teaching. Share other things. Krishna, chant Hare Krishna and be happy, and these kind of things you share. But don't go into controversial subject matters. Because why? My mind itself is not clear on those things. I have no faith in those instructions. This is what is happening. Even when we seem to agree to follow the preceptor, it is because he appears to be in agreement with ourselves. But as the two worlds have absolutely nothing in common, we are only under a delusion when we suppose that we really understand the method or the object of the preceptor, or in other words, reserve the right of assertion of the apparent self. Oh, the amount of complicated English he's using. One second. I have this problem of dry lips. Okay. You see, I have to read twice to get to the meaning of this now. Okay. But as the two worlds have absolutely nothing in common, we are only under a delusion when we suppose that we really understand the method or the object of the preceptor, or in other words, reserve the right of assertion of the apparent self. Faith in the scriptures can only help us in this otherwise impracticable endeavor. We believe in the preceptor with the help of the Shastras when we understand neither. As soon as we are fully convinced of the necessity of submitting unambiguously to the good preceptor, it is then and only then that he is enabled to show us the way into the spiritual world in accordance with the method laid down in the Shastras of that purpose, which he can apply properly and without perpetrating fatal blunder inasmuch as he himself happens to belong to the realm of the spirit. Oh my Krishna, this English is just so difficult. Okay. But the two worlds have absolutely nothing in common. We are only in a delusion. Okay. Or in other words, reserve the right of assertion of the apparent self. Apparent self means the body. Faith in the scriptures can alone help us in this otherwise impracticable endeavor. Hmm. Hmm. We believe in the preceptor with the help of the Shastras when we understand neither. We don't understand the preceptor, we don't understand the Shastras, but we believe in the preceptor with the help of the Shastras. As soon as we're fully convinced of the necessity of submitting unambiguously to the good preceptor, it is then and only then that he is enabled to show us the way into the spiritual world in accordance with the method laid down in the Shastras of that purpose, which he can apply properly and without perpetrating fatal blunder, in as much as he himself happens to belong to the realm of the spirit. No, I don't understand the last part of it, but it is clear in the other part of it that um, what is that verse? यस्य देवे परा भक्तिर यथा देवे तथा गुरौ तस्यैते कथिता हि अर्थाः प्रकाशन्ते महात्मनः. Shvetashvatar 6.23. When one has full faith in Guru and Krishna, then and only then can the meaning of the Shastras be revealed to that person. The crux of the matter lies not in the external nature of the ceremony of initiation, as it appears to us, because that is bound to be unintelligible to us, being an affair of the other world, but in the conviction of the necessity and the successful choice of a really good preceptor. Okay, let's read that again. The crux of the matter lies not in the external nature of the ceremony of initiation, as it appears to us, because that is bound to be unintelligible to us, being an affair of the other world. So, we don't understand why the ceremony is to be done, and we do the ceremony, okay, but how was that um, relevant when the only thing that actually matters is me taking the instruction of the spiritual masters wholeheartedly? Then why this ceremony should be there? All the grains into the fire, and all the mantras chanting, and all this paraphernalia and all that. Why is that necessary? So here, Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura is saying that this nature of the ceremony, as it appears to us, is bound to be unintelligible. That means we cannot. Is bound to be not understood by us, because it is an affair of the other world, of the spiritual world. But lies the crux of the matter lies in the conviction of the necessity and the successful choice of a really good preceptor. So, in either case, even if we do not understand the full, need of a ceremony, the need of a ceremony is that basically it is a formalization of one's vows, like marriage vows. Why is there a necessity to perform that whole havan, and the priest coming, and all that hangama, and all that goes on in the thing of marriage? Why? If a man and woman agree to just be together, what else is needed, you may ask? Well, the formalization of vows is a way to solidify our commitment. Because in private, if I do some declaration, I can also call it off in private. But when it is public, it is more for me, for my own protection, that I do it in a public way, because then the whole society has seen that, okay, these two people are married. It is registered in the registrar of marriages, and it is done in front of fire, which is a representation of Lord Vishnu. So in the presence, in the declaration to the supreme personality of Godhead, and the family members and public in general, and photos and everything is taken. Nowadays, in those days, no photos, but full proof was there that these two are married. So now I have made a public commitment, so I cannot just give it up so easily. So that it makes it difficult to give up. So here also we are formalizing our vows, and this is not just for our own mental this thing, but it's actually in front of the deities, in front of the fire, in front of the spiritual master, in front of the Vaishnavas. Formally, we are announcing that I want to take this vow seriously, and I want to follow, be a disciple of so and so, the spiritual master. So all these things are meant to strengthen our determination and our conviction in submitting to the spiritual master. We can attain to the conviction of the necessity of the help of a good preceptor by the exercise of our unbiased reason in the light of our ordinary experience. When once this conviction has been truly formed, Sri Krishna himself helps us in finding the really good preceptor in two ways. In the first place, he instructs us as regards the character and functions of a good preceptor through the revealed Shastras. In the second place, he himself sends to us the good preceptor himself at the right moment when we are at all likely to benefit from his instructions. The good preceptor also comes to us when we reject him. In such cases also, it is certainly Krishna who sends him to us for no reason whatsoever. Krishna has revealed from eternity the tidings of the spiritual realm in the form of transcendental sounds that have been handed down in the records of the spiritual scriptures all over the world. So, yes, I think quite easy to understand, I hope. Um, Unbiased reason in the light of our ordinary experience. But we are actually not, qualified to even judge. So, how that happens? When once this conviction has been truly formed, Sri Krishna himself helps us in finding the really good preceptor in two ways. So, first of all, we must be having the conviction that we need the help. You see, we can attain to the conviction of the necessity of the help of a good preceptor by the exercise of our unbiased reason in the light of our ordinary experience. Now, um, we have to acknowledge that I have no clue on how to do this, so I need help. So once I'm convinced that I cannot do it alone, I need the help of a guru, and that's when we want to submit at least. Don't know where to submit, and that's when Krishna, when once this conviction has been truly formed, Sri Krishna himself helps in finding the really good preceptor in two ways. In the first place, he instructs us as regards the character and functions of a good preceptor through the revealed shastras. In the second place, he himself sends to us the good preceptor himself at the right moment when we are at all likely to benefit from his instructions. The good preceptor also comes to us when we reject him. That's interesting. In such cases, also it is certainly Krishna who sends him to us for no reason whatsoever. This is mercy. Krishna has revealed from eternity the tidings of the spiritual realm in the form of transcendental sounds, the teachings of the spiritual realm, or in the form of transcendental sounds, Shabda Brahma, that have been handed down in the records of the spiritual scriptures all over the world. The spiritual scriptures help all those who are prepared to exercise this reason for the purpose of finding not the relative but the absolute truth, to find out the proper instructor in accordance with their directions, the scriptural directions. The only good preceptor is he who can make us really understand the spiritual scriptures, and they enable us realize the necessity and the nature of submission to the processes laid down in them. Okay, the only good preceptor is he who can make us really understand the spiritual scriptures, and the spiritual scriptures, enable us realize the necessity and the nature of submission to the processes laid down in them. Both the spiritual master and the Shastra enable us to realize the necessity and the nature of submission, how to submit to the processes laid down, or the devotional service, process of devotional service, how to submit to that process. But there is still every chance of foul play. A very clever man or a magician may pass himself off as a person who can properly explain the scriptures by means of his greater knowledge of deceptive arts. So, greater knowledge or deceptive arts. It is very important, therefore, that we should be on our guard against such tricks. The scholar as well as the magician pretend to explain the scriptures only in terms of the object or happenings of this world, but the scriptures themselves declare that they do not tell us at all of the thing of this world. Those are liable to be deluded by the arts of pervert yogis who persuade themselves into believing that the spiritual is identical with the perversion, distortion, or defiance of the laws of physical nature. So you see, those people are liable to be deluded by the arts of the pervert yogis who persuade themselves into believing that the spiritual is identical with the perversion, distortion, or defiance of the laws of physical nature. The laws of physical nature are not unreal. They govern the relation of all relative existences. So, so you know what he's saying here. The art of pervert yogis, they may show some magic. What is magic? What is actually magic? Something that defies the laws that we know as we know them. You know, we know that something can happen only this way, but when it happens in a totally different way, like what? What did just happen? So it defies the understanding of our natural laws. So something which goes against the laws that we think is as spiritual. Some, like Bishakisan, he used to do some miracles and all. These miracles are what is being alluded to here. So let's read that again. The scholar as well as the magician. So the scholar, he will twist and turn explanations. The magician is the yogis who do these tricks, tantrics and all these people. They pretend to explain the scriptures only in terms of the object or happenings of this world. Like you see Bishakisan, he said, "Oh, I am avatar of Vishnu. I will give freedom from British." This is not what avatar of Vishnu will do. Huh? So, what is that? In terms of the object or happenings of this world. Pretend to explain the scriptures only in terms of the object or happenings of this world. But the scriptures themselves declare that they do not tell us at all of the thing of this world. Those are liable to be deluded by the arts of the pervert yogis who persuade themselves into believing that the spiritual is identical with the perversion, distortion, or defiance of the laws of physical nature. So, if somebody can defy the laws of physical nature or distort them or perverse or pervert, so if you can bend the so-called laws, then he is something spiritual. If somebody has this kind of conviction, then he will be led to these stupid yogis. Actually, the yogis are not stupid, the followers are more stupid. The laws of physical nature are not unreal, they're real. They govern the relation of all relative existences. In our present state, it is therefore always possible for another who possesses the power or the knowledge to demonstrate the merely tentative character of what we choose to regard as our deepest convictions by exposing their insufficiency or inapplicability. But such surprises, as they belong to the realm of the phenomenal, have nothing to do with the absolute. You know what he's talking about here in such ornamental English? See, in our present state, it is therefore always possible for another person who possesses the power or the knowledge to demonstrate the merely tentative character. That means tentative means what? It's not fixed. So, such yogis can sometimes show they're able to demonstrate the merely tentative character of what we choose to regard as our deepest convictions. Like, for example, um, you know, all these magicians, how they do it, you know, and yogis, how they do it. Our deepest conviction on how things can move and how the magician makes things move and then makes things disappear and then appear, and how these things, our convictions don't allow us to believe that. So when they bend our experience, so then they, in fact, real yogis, they just don't do this sleight of hand. They actually have yogic powers. Magician, he simply, you know he moves deceptively. But a yogi, he can actually do something that defies the laws of this world. But in our present state, it is therefore always possible for another person who possesses the power or the knowledge to demonstrate the merely tentative character of what we choose to regard as our deepest convictions. So by exposing their insufficiency or inapplicability. So he may bend the laws of physics, or then hey, what is the law of physics? Then is it a law even? What is true and what is false, and what is possible and what is not? Because we were convinced that this is possible, this is not possible. But then he shows us that the impossible became possible. How is that possible? So it makes us question the laws which were ingrained in our mind. Like, is this really a fact, or can it be like violated? Can this law be violated? But such surprises, as they belong to the realm of the phenomenal, that means of the material. Phenomenal means the material. Nominal means spiritual. So, but such surprises as they belong to the realm of the phenomenal have nothing to do with the absolute. Those who have an unspiritual partiality for scholarship or for magic fall into the clutches of the pseudo religionists. See, those who have an unspiritual partiality for scholarship or for magic, that means the jnanis and the yogis. The jnanis are the scholars, who speculate on the absolute truth, and the magic are those yogis who do this magic stuff. Now, so those who have an unspiritual partiality for scholarship or for magic fall into the clutches of the pseudo religionists. People who fall for these people are all these kind of wackos, you know, who want some magic, some miracle to happen. The serious plight of these victims of their own perversity will be realized from the fact that no one can be delivered from the state of ignorance by the method of compulsion. It is not possible to save the man who refuses on principle to listen to the voice of reason. So that is the thing. If we don't take to Krishna consciousness, especially by Shravan and Kirtan, the voice of reason is the Shastra, is the spiritual master, which perfectly explain to us what is what. So we give up such reason and we fall for some miracles. Therefore, the serious plight of these victims of their own perversity will be realized from the fact that no one can be delivered from the state of ignorance by the method of compulsion. It is not possible to save the man who refuses, on principle, to listen to the voice of reason. The empiric pedants are no exception to this rule. The means of mental speculators are no exception to this rule. The plain meaning of the Shastras should therefore be our only guide in search of the good preceptor when we actually feel the necessity of his guidance. The plain meaning, this is in Sanskrit, it is called Mukhya Vritti. Then there is Gauna Vritti, which is the implied meaning, twisted meaning, but the plain meaning, straightforward meaning of the Shastras should therefore be our only guide in search of the good preceptor when we actually feel the necessity of his guidance. The scriptures have defined the good preceptor as one who himself leads the spiritual life. It is not any worldly qualifications that make the good preceptor or bona fide spiritual master. It is by unreserved submission to such a preceptor that we can be helped to re enter into the realm that is our real home, but which unfortunately is veritable terra incognita to almost all of us at present, and also impossible of access to one body and mind alike, which is the result of the disease of abuse of our faculty of free reason and the consequent accumulation of a killing load of worldly experiences which we have learned to regard as the very stuff of our existence. Wow, the English is just mind-boggling English. Oh my Krishna! But actually, it is quite clear what he's saying. But we have to go slow to understand it properly. So here, it's so deep. I don't know. It's already 11 something, 11 o'clock. I don't know how much more we have, but we will finish the whole thing today. I can't do a part 2 of this. We are somewhere towards the end, but a little bit more. So you see, it is not any worldly qualifications that make the good preceptor. Okay, that is understood. Not that he has to be highly educated. No, Gaur Das Babaji was not. Or a woman, less intelligent. No. Kunti Devi is not. Gopis are not. Radharani is, Lakshmi and all the queens of Dwarka. They are not, less intelligent women. So all these material qualifications, worldly qualifications, they don't make the good preceptor. He has fully spiritual qualities. Okay. It is by unreserved submission to such a preceptor that we can be helped to re-enter into the realm that is our real home. Okay, stop it there. That means quite clear also, right? Unreserved submission. When we reserve ourselves, then we are listening to our mind. Unreserved submission to such a preceptor is what will help us to re-enter into the realm that is our real home, that is Vaikuntha. But which unfortunately is veritable terra incognita. What is that? Terra incognita means unknown land, right? That's what I understand. Can we search from here? First, veritable. You can't even do anything with that. Okay. Okay, let's go here. Veritable. Often to qualify a metaphor, used for emphasis. Okay, veritable. Okay, fine. It's an adjective, I think. So, witnessed a veritable price explosion. So it's like emphasis. Okay, understood. Now, terra incognita. Yeah. Unexplored territory, unknown. Yeah. Unknown lands. So, but which unfortunately is veritable terra incognita to almost all of us. So that part, the spiritual world is a completely unknown land. We don't even have any information. Almost all of us at present, and also impossible of access to one body and mind alike, to one's body actually, one's body and mind alike. That means we cannot go there into the material, I mean to the Vaikuntha with our body or with the mind also, which is the result of the disease. So our body and our mind are the disease, is the result of the disease of abuse of our faculty of free reason. What is that? We got a material body and a material mind as a result of the disease of abuse of our faculty of free reason, because we have free will whether to serve God or not. When we chose not to serve Krishna, then that is when we were awarded this material body and material mind. So our material mind and body exist only when we go away from our constitutional position and we abuse our free will. So with that material body and mind, now we cannot enter into the spiritual realm, because by nature, by definition, our material body and mind was created at a time when we chose to go away from the spiritual world, chose to go away from our submission to Krishna. So they are the product of the disease. You can't come back to the healthy way of life with the disease along with you. No, you have to discard the body and mind. So when we enter back into the spiritual world, it is pure spirit. There's no material mind and body. So with our material body and mind, we cannot reach the spiritual world, in other words. So therefore, it is unknown to us. Terra incognita. Impossible to access to one's body and mind alike, which is the result of the disease of abuse of our faculty of free reason and the consequent accumulation of a killing load of worldly experiences, which we have learned to regard as the very stuff of our existence. So, killing load means heavy burden of worldly experiences. So, once we have a mind and body, especially mind has impressions of so many worldly experiences from our previous lives. And if we try to understand spiritual life according to those worldly experiences, to match with any of those worldly experiences in our past or present lives, we will never be able to find a match. So, therefore, there is nothing in our memory that resembles the life in the spiritual world. There's nothing in the stock of our memory of the material mind that resembles the spiritual world. So, it's zero access with our material mind and so the killing load of worldly experiences which we have learned to regard as the very stuff of our existence. We think our existence means all these memories of our worldly experiences, and that is me, that is my existence, that is who I am. So we define ourselves like this. And this killing load, I mean, it's not just like few experiences, like unlimited experiences here. So that is the meaning of this. Yeah, it's just that's the end. Okay. That was an abrupt end. So basically, to summarize the whole thing, initiation is the beginning of spiritual life, and it does not have the same effect on everyone. It depends on the willingness to submit to um, the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master. And there are gurus who are not bona fide, and due to them, there may be, due to an abundance of them, there may be a, you know, refraining from submission because we are skeptical. And especially so if one has a Western education system, which always teaches you how to be skeptical and not to submit. That's the whole Western education system. And since we are all taught that education system, so we are victims of that. So we have an inherent problem submitting. And at the same time, the disciple reserves the right to give up the guru at any time if he is not of proper conduct. Hmm? And the yes, so we cannot how to say, put forth our material reasoning to understand the absolute truth. So we should not agree to the spiritual master only because he is agreeable to us, or whatever he says makes sense to me, and therefore I will. Of course, it will make sense, but sometimes it may not make sense because our sense, our body, our mind is materially conditioned, and he's teaching us, spiritual laws which don't match with the material laws. So sometimes it is difficult to digest sometimes. So, but we should have faith in the word of the bona fide spiritual master in the Shastras. And that is the way to proceed further. Um, and so many bogus gurus like the pervert yogis and jnanis who try to, deviate. So initiation means we should take only from the proper guru and we should be the proper disciple, and then it will work. So this is the article, initiation into spiritual life. And spiritual life, we should not mistake it to be some anti-material life, or you know um, make something against material laws, and that will be spiritual. Or some yogic power, something miracle, that is not spiritual. That is not. It's still in the phenomenal world, in the material world. It's not part of the spiritual experience. So we should not be fooled by this magic and this so-called scholarship. We should know what is actually devotion and what is devotional service, and we should follow the spiritual master who teaches us that. Okay, so that is the article. So, any questions or comments? Rahul Sharma, I understand what you say about devotion. I have a family to take care. Can you please put light on the path I select? So, you take care of your family. So, see, we cannot act beyond our convictions. We should not imitate to act beyond our convictions. So, Sridhar Swami, he could do that because his convictions levels are way higher. Now, if my convictions levels are not so high, I should not imitate him. Hmm. So, and but at the same time, if somebody has such, a high degree of conviction and they're making some bold step, I should not criticize that, saying that, oh, how can there is so much conviction there? Is it? No. Definitely, if somebody is making a bold step out of conviction, that should be adored, that should be respected. Although I may not be able to do. So, in your current state, you have a family to take care of. Please take care of your family. I'm not saying no, and make them Krishna's devotees. That's it. So you make your wife, your children into Krishna's devotees. That is your duty. So you don't have to give up on anything. You become first of all strong. In order to lead them, you have to become strong, and then you can lead them. Okay. What is that? Would that mean to just stop if I can never successfully reach Krishna consciousness? No. Oh, I think we have answered that. Okay. So we should not stop. We should just carry on and not believe myself, not have full faith in myself, but have full faith in the spiritual master and the mercy of the spiritual master, and always beg for his mercy. Rick Miller, oh, this Prabhu is back. The weeds are intrusive thoughts that lead to lust and seeking external desires. Because the seed has to be pure to ascend up the 33 vertebrae of the spine. What is third? Come on. We're not talking about the vertebrae of the spine. Nothing to do with the spine. Please read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You know, the seed is not in somewhere in our buttocks, and then going up the spine. The seed is sown in the heart, and from there it goes, and then the tree goes into the spiritual world. What are you talking about? The ascent of the 33 vertebrae of the spine. That means it is at the buttock. What are you talking? A good gardener knows his true intentions in his heart, and that is what purifies the mind, and focusing or maintaining awareness is true devotion. See, it's not very vague like this. You have to be very, very specific with this. Absolutely. I mean, no room for error. True intentions in his heart, and this is what purifies the mind. No, no, no. What do you know? Intentions are displayed or demonstrated by one's activities. So it translates into action. So action gives us an idea of what the intentions are, and the intentions, are caused by one's convictions. So in this way, what is one convinced of? According to that, his intentions will be there, and according to intentions, the action will be there. So one's convictions have to be properly aligned first, and purifies the mind. These are all vague words. Knows his true intentions in his heart. What is true intentions? I mean, what are you talking about? See, gardener, he must protect his devotional service. He should be always serving Krishna. Kirtaniya Sadahari. That is the goal. His heart is full of evil intentions at the moment. So we have to get rid of those things. Therefore, gardener must be very careful in weeding out all those evil intentions and evil desires and all these things which mask themselves as devotion. That is so true. Many gurus are deceiving people. Christ says, many will come before me, but they are not me. Yeah. Mitri, wonderful class. Thanks for diving into this matter and elaborating the initiation process. It was a challenge actually. Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura's explanation is so deep, so high. Takes a while to understand. And that understanding is also because of only reading Prabhupada's books, otherwise there's zero chance of understanding any of what is written. Luke 11:34-36 says, "Thy light is in thy eye, therefore when thy eye is single, thy body be full of light, but if thy eye is evil, thy body be full of darkness." Our intentions are most important. Yes, but what is that light and what is darkness? Light means to be in Krishna consciousness, Krishna Surya Sama. So to take guidance from Krishna's knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and what he speaks and what the Acharya speaks, that is pure knowledge, that is light. And darkness, evil, means to go against, to not submit to Krishna's will and to the will of the Acharya. Intentions mean we have to intend to surrender. That is what is important. The word guru is compound of two words, gu and ru. Gu means darkness, ru means light. That which dispels the darkness of ignorance is called guru. But I don't know, gu is darkness and ru means light. Where did you get that from? Guru means heavy. Heavy means heavy with knowledge, heavy with devotion. He's not a lightweight character. He's heavy and grave. That is what guru means. The energy and action of removing darkness is our Guru. Guru is not a person. This is rubbish nonsense. It is a force driven by grace. To put this another way, there is an intelligent momentum that pervades the universe that is moving all human beings towards the perfection we call God. Guru is that intelligence. Everyone's receptivity to that intelligence varies. It depends. Crap. This is rubbish. See, you don't know what you're talking also, first of all. You please read Bhagavad Gita. All these ideas without proper understanding of the Shastra from the bona fide spiritual master, you will go into this scholarship and magic. That's what you're doing. Mental speculation. You should come out of that. For your own good, I mean. Because you should Guru is not a person, that is nonsense. He is a person. He is a devotee of Krishna. See, your explanation must match with Krishna's. Either I believe in Krishna's words or your words. I choose to believe in Krishna's words because he's way more intelligent than you. So why should I unnecessarily, believe you? Who are you? So we should submit to Krishna's version of explanation, not create our own stupid versions of explanations. So that's why I don't like this big explanation in the comment section. Please listen to the class. If you're typing away all these huge messages, then you're not listening. You're just wanting to give your own class here. Don't do that. That's not good for you. You should listen properly. Submissive hearing must be there. Hmm. Otherwise, if you want to put your own philosophy, why are you here? Here we're trying to understand a very, very exalted subject, very difficult to understand. Even if you read it 20 times, it's difficult to understand. And so much processing to be done, and you're writing away your own thing when I'm speaking. That means your mind is somewhere else. And you're talking also some meaningless stuff. Guru is not a person, all rubbish. This is nonsense. Honestly, this is nonsense. Rick Miller. Western civilization has been betrayed by the kings of our nation. Washington, D.C. is not a state because it's a Western foreign corporation holder of the United States, a branch of the UK. Well, these transient politics will go on, but real thing is, Krishna consciousness. Again, another big explanation. What are you doing? The whole thing you're just doing this. Sri Krishna is not condemning the Vedas but is advising Arjuna to go beyond the three attributes of human mind to attain a state of equanimity. No, he's asking him to rise above the three modes, sattva, raja, tama. The human mind is composed of three gunas, yes, sattva, rajas, tamas. The Vedas explain that these three qualities are present in all that exists and phenomenal ones of found in all human beings, though in different grades and degrees. When sadhaka understands that the animal tendency is destructive, wow. What are you? I mean, I don't know. I just it's waste of time. You are just wasting people's time. Writing big explanations. Just listen. Just sit down and listen. Sit tight and listen. That's what you should do. Otherwise, you're always, free to not listen. And you can go. But if you're here, please listen and pay attention. You're not paying attention. Obviously, you're not paying attention. And speaking some crap. It's not even meaningful, to be very honest. Not even meaningful. You're not quoting from any Shastra. You have to quote from Shastra. You're just quoting from your mind. That's what the whole thing is about. This whole article is about don't trust your stupid mind. Our mind is stupid. Don't trust it. You're trusting heavily on the mind. And that is exactly what this article is saying don't do. What are you learning? Sushan is saying, I don't find the strength to carry out the holy name. I think, Prabhuji, I'm no expert. Okay, again, don't say that you're not expert and therefore I'm not going to chant. No. You have to chant. You have to do it. And if you can't do it alone, yeah, go in the association of devotees and do it. Talk. If the Shiksha Guru is following the words of good preceptor perfectly, then isn't he a good preceptor himself? Yes. Absolutely. Prabhupada said, all the Shiksha Gurus, all my disciples should do what I'm doing and say what I'm saying. So that is setting proper example and saying the same things as what Prabhupada is saying. So then it is proper. The initiating and certain spiritual masters are equally identical manifestation of Krishna, although they have different dealings. Yeah. What is that? Ruzinana. According to Shastric injunctions, there is no difference between Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, and generally Shiksha Guru later on becomes Diksha Guru. Okay. Do Krishna love everyone equally? Yeah. Can I take initiation in Gaudiya Math, the original Math of Gaudiya Vaishnavism? Well, you know what is the original Math? What is actually Gaudiya Vaishnavism? From Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers. Okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers are called Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So before Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura also, Gaudiya Vaishnavism was there. So it is not the origin of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So that's wrong. Can I take initiation in Gaudiya Math? Well, Prabhupada said I don't know how many times I have to repeat this. So all my God brothers, none of them are following. None of them, what is that? None of them are, all are useless, or all are, you know, useless also he said, and other words also he used. Basically, he is the only one who is bona fide after Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura. So you should follow him. And he said that anybody can come to me. So now, why do you want to take in Gaudiya Math? And I don't know. If you're interested to take Prabhupada as a guru, then yeah, there is a way. But if you're not, if you're don't want to take initiation, then who can say anything? If reincarnation is real, then why we have no remembrance about our previous life? How to accept these things as evidence? So, suppose in this life I get I get into an accident. Suppose, and I get this, forgetfulness. I just forgot whatever happened. I sometimes they forget their previous life also. Their life also they forget. They forget their relatives. They forget their family members. Sometimes it is not as you know severe. They forget maybe the circumstances around the accident, and sometimes they forget much more. And then after some time, the memory comes back, but some things around the accident they don't remember, like how it's happened, when it happened, they won't remember. So when there is a traumatic experience, there is a loss of memory. So death is a very traumatic experience, and the birth in the womb of the mother is another traumatic experience. In fact, if he is fortunate, he will remember his past lives. And at the time of birth, when he's going to come out of the womb of the mother, that is so traumatic, and he forgets just everything of the past life, erased. So it is that painful birth. It's very, very painful. He's choking, and he's choking inside when he's coming out. That's why when it comes out and he finally can breathe, then he will cry. So, and then Maya completely. If you read third chapter 31st verse, third canto 31st chapter, sorry, Srimad Bhagavatam, what happens and when the soul exactly forgets everything about the previous life is mentioned there. You can read the chapter, but I'm just going to show you that verse itself. See, he's actually praying in the womb now, in these verses. The 10-month-old living entity has his desires even while in the womb. But while he thus extols the Lord, the wind that helps parturition propels him forth with his face turned downward so that he may be born. Pushed downward all of a sudden by the wind, the child comes out with great trouble, head downward, breathless, and deprived of memory due to severe agony. And this is why the memory gets deprived. Due to severe agony. The word krichrena means with great difficulty. When the child comes out of the abdomen through the narrow passage, Due to pressure there, the breathing system completely stops. And due to agony, the child loses his memory. Sometimes this trouble is so severe that the child comes out dead or almost dead. One can imagine what the pangs of birth are like. The child remains for 10 months in that horrible condition within the abdomen. At the end of 10 months, he is forcibly pushed out. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord points out that a person who is serious about advancement in spiritual consciousness should always consider the four pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. The materialist advances in many ways, but is unable to stop these four principles of suffering inherent in material existence. So that's the. My granny's Diksha Guru was Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Goswami. Abhishek Sharma, the founder of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, is Lord Chaitanya. According to Chaitanya Mangal, his commander is Śrīla Prabhupada, and Śrīla Prabhupada gave a system of initiation called Ritvik system. Thank you for spelling it out as it is. Rick Miller, you talked about Western civilization and I spoke my thoughts. And when you read about the seed in gardener, I understood it completely different. Gardener means he has to garden or water the seed of the devotion. That is what is. You can go and read actually Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila 19th chapter, 151st verse onwards. Majority of ISKCON followers visit Gaudiya Math in Mayapur. They have a moderate relationship with Gaudiya Math. Yeah, I mean we can just go there, and excellent point about deer and tiger. So, with your God realization, what was it that made you know you realize Krishna consciousness? Shouldn't we know if the person reading is truly understanding what's being said, how it applies internally? Well, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, you can understand what is being said. And internally, yeah, well, how much we are able, that much we will realize. Yatha manisham. So, and how much we understand. Of course, every instruction can be understood in to unlimited depths. So, how much ever we understand, that much we will explain for our own purification. How much it apply internally and what. That is, of course, we from whatever is mentioned, we could understand whatever is said. I think apart from one sentence which I could not understand. So otherwise, whatever we understood, we explain. Okay, so other comment said Bisha Kishan is a freedom fighter. Crap. Just I'm confused in one point, and Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in chapter 4, text 11 that Krishna can be reached by many ways. No, he did not. That is not. You should read the purport of that verse now. In that he says, every way which is given by him. Manusya Partha Sarvashaha. So, however, if somebody is karmi, somebody is jnani, somebody is yogi, somebody is devotee, and neophyte devotee, and advanced devotee, pure devotee. So, how much one surrenders, that much he will reward. So, but all of them, all of the processes that he has mentioned, will ultimately lead to him. Not everything will lead to him immediately in the same exact way. The karma yogi will come slowly to jnana yogi platform. Jnana yogi will slowly come to maybe hatha yogi or bhakti yogi platform. So, it will take lifetimes and lifetimes, but ultimately they will reach the same place. So they are all following his path in that way. The karma yoga, jnana yoga, all climbing the ladder of or the mountain of yoga, and finally coming to the platform of bhakti. And so in that way, yes, but it's not that their immediate next destination is Krishna. No, the karma yogi's immediate next destination is the next higher, and maybe ultimately maybe jnani, and then after that jnani, many lifetimes, then maybe yogi, and after many lifetimes, then maybe bhakta. So like that. So does it synonymous with Yatama Tattvavit of Ramakrishna? No, no, no. Ramakrishna is idiot. Don't even equate anything with Ramakrishna. Nonsense. Okay, so I think we will stop it here. Thank you very much for your time. Jai Śrīla Bhaktisiddānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura ki jai. Initiation ceremony ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi.